I can.
At a ground, the wife will have it out of the house.
It was.
Next spring, that's it for jobs this spring.
All right, it is 6 o'clock. I'll call the Russell County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. You would all sign in, please.
This is not working.
Oh,
Can Dave? 15. 17%.
17 present, we have a quorum. First on the agenda, is the invocation by Pastor Brian York. And then the Pledge of Allegiance by Jim Meyer. But just before the invocation, if we could all have a moment of silence for the passing of our member, Dan Goodis.
Lord Jesus, this evening we recognize your greatness, your majesty, Lord. There's none like you. Exodus 15:11, when they were singing, they said, "Who is like unto thee, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like unto thee, glorious in holiness, fearful in praises, doing wonders?" So we thank you, Lord, for mercies, and we thank you for grace. Because where would we be without your touch? Where would we be without your wisdom? Word says every good and perfect gift is from above and comes down from the Father of lights, with whom is neither variableness, neither shadow of turning. So Lord, we pray right now for your wisdom and guidance upon our county board. They would have your wisdom and your mind, that their decisions and the direction that we would allow your purpose, Lord, to move forward. 1 Timothy 2:1-2 says, "I exhort therefore, that first of all supplications, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings and for all that are in authority, that we may lead in a quiet and peaceful life in all godliness and honesty." So Lord, we pray for just that they together would have the wisdom and knowledge to be able to do, to allow in this area, these people, Lord, the ability to live quiet and peaceful lives in godliness and honesty. Further, Lord, that the gospel of Jesus Christ would be able to reach into every heart and home. Your work would be accomplished in every life. And lastly, Lord, I pray for comfort for those that were affected by that fire last night we all heard of, that they would have peace even in the middle of these difficult circumstances, because you are our peace and our strength. We can have security in the storms of life, and that you would supply their every need. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On the agenda, we have public comment limited to 3 minutes per person with maximum public comment of 30 minutes. Does anyone wish to speak in public comment? Anyone wish to speak in, go ahead.
Thank you, Al Christensen. Main item was the resolution regarding fairgrounds usage. At least the way I read that, it looks like nobody else can have an event there prior to the fair, which would essentially include all summer. And then 30 days after the fair, as most of you know, the summer season typically is known as going from Memorial Day through Labor Day. So I guess I just wonder, we've spent now $700,000 on that facility, just to make it available, for a couple small uses and not available necessarily to the general public. They're certainly, looking at the fair schedule, a lot of wonderful items on there. I wonder where you're actually drawing the line on what's a fairly vague resolution. So that would be something I'd encourage you all to discuss a little bit more. I see on there that, this board, a lot of its committees have talked about the fair and acted on stuff for the fairgrounds. Also talked about the Bulls and Barrels event, quite a bit, probably an inordinate amount of time. I wonder if we had spent a little more time working on a solution for Geldwin over in Hawkins, maybe on adding some additional affordable workforce housing, finding a spot for the sheriff's storage so they aren't taking up 20,000 square feet free of charge when we charge the private sector $3 a square foot for that same space. And when it was brought up to them last October during the budget cycle, I wonder if we had maybe focused on a few more meaningful things like that and a little less on what are relatively small events in the grand scheme of things. If we'd maybe start digging ourselves out of the hole of, constantly being among the bottom counties in Wisconsin. It's just kind of the same decision making that seems to continue going on. And as a lifelong resident here, I'm tired of seeing us in the bottom. I'd like to see us make a little progress. So hopefully once you get done hashing all this stuff out, we get focusing on some bigger ticket items, on ways to increase the employment in this area, the housing opportunities, as a way to grow our property tax base, which I think you'll hear from your financial advisors tonight, is kind of the way that you handle borrowing and all that, and afford to pay off things like a highway department, like a jail, which are certainly needed projects, but you need the tax base to support those and you need the revenue. So thank you for your time and for your service.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak in public comment?
May I speak virtually?
Your policy says yes. Yeah, I'm sorry, our policy says that for virtually you have to have prior approval virtually during public comment. Is there any other public comment? Any other public comment? Hearing none, public comment is now closed. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from March 25th, 2025. Which advocates read that over. Motion by Coggins and second by Mike Russell to approve minutes from March 5. Any discussion on the minutes? Additions or corrections? Go ahead. Passed by majority, 17 yes. Next on the agenda, the election of the Highway Committee for District 3 Southwest. If anybody would like to make a nomination. Go ahead.
I'd like to nominate. Singer.
I didn't see it. Okay, all right. Go ahead, Jim.
Nominate Tom Kudo.
Jim would like to nominate Tom Kudo. Oh, and Mr. Gorsinger, do you? Yeah. Mr. Kudo, will you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Their nomination? Not nominations in.
Hey, Phil. Could you help us out? Please.
Choice. I got it. Like,
Just initial these ones?
yes.
Signing.
Yeah, there's initial, yeah, you have to initial this one. Karen.
You initial this. Some of them are secret. Sure. Yep.
Shaking hands.
Okay, we had 3 for Tom Kudo, 14 for Mr. Gorsinger. Gorsinger is now on the highway committee.
I think so.
Yeah. Next, the agenda is the law enforcement proclamation. Here. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day in the week, which May 15th falls as National Police Week. Whereas the members of the law enforcement agency of Russ County play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of Russ County. Whereas it's important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of the law enforcement agency, that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, protecting the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression. Whereas during National Police Week and throughout the year, Russ County recognizes and appreciates the critical contributions and sacrifices made by members of law enforcement on all levels and honors their courage, dedication. Whereas it is known that 165 officers were killed in the line of duty in 2024, and many others were seriously assaulted in the performance of their duties. Our community joins with other counties, cities, and towns to honor their memory and sacrifice and pay homage to their legacy of excellence and devotion to duty. Now, therefore, I, Phil Undershoots, chairperson of the Russ County Board of Supervisors, do hereby proclaim May 11th through the 17th of 2025 as National Police Week, and Thursday, May 15th, 2025 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers who through their courageous deeds have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or become disabled in the performance of duty. Let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. May we always remember what they do on a daily basis and defend and protect our rights and safety. Next on the agenda is to set the May 5 through May of 2026 County Board of Supervisors scheduling meeting dates. Get that screen there. Mr. Wedwick?
If you look at April 21st, 2026, it's the same thing as this thing, the third Tuesday of the month. April is the township meetings by state statute. So you would have to change that date to April 28th or make it a 9 a.m. meeting in the third Tuesday in April. By law, that is the county annual meetings.
Town board.
So you either want to change it to what?
I believe there's,
It'll either have to be changed to April 28th or it'd have to be a 9 a.m. meeting.
So. Yeah, so the statute 5911C states that the third Tuesday in April, the organizational transactional meeting has to be done on that day.
We're going to change it to an earlier meeting.
historically, it's always been a 9 a.m. meeting
Is there,
Okay,
or organizational.
is there any objection to changing that to a 9 a.m. meeting?
that's elections as well. So
Okay.
just we can. Then again to.
Okay, so are you, Mr. Moore and Mr. Snyder, are you okay with the motion to be with the 9 a.m. 21st of April?
Yep.
26. All right. Everybody's good with the changes. You can go ahead and vote now. Other discussion. Seventeen yes, passed by majority. Next on the agenda, we have a presentation from Justin Fisher at Fair Financing. Presentation on the hypothetical long-term capital improvement plan. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate the opportunity to attend here virtually. So tonight, what we're going to be going through are two different scenarios that we've kind of vetted through over the past several months, past years. I mean, when we started looking at these capital items, it was back in 2021. So a lot of, different scenarios, options, thoughts have gone into this. And we've gotten to a point where the ad hoc committee recommended scenario 2 that I'll go through tonight, but we wanted to go through 2 different scenarios for the board to consider and think about as you're kind of making your decision on which scenario you want to pursue. So the goals of these financings, just to kind of recap, is to minimize the tax impact to the taxpayers, provide flexibility to reduce long-term debt if funds are available, ability to issue long-term debt when ready and timing is optimal, include local banks in the issuance process like we have in the past, maximize the investment earnings that can be used towards the projects, spend the proceeds within 2 to 3 years of the issuance to avoid arbitrage rebate, and maintain the borrowing capacity for future capital projects. The good thing that that we can talk about tonight is that in early 2024, the county was upgraded by Standard & Poor's from an A+ rating to a AA-. That's really a big thing because the better the bond credit rating for the county, the lower the interest rates we're going to receive when we go out to finance projects. And knowing that you have these, larger capital items on the horizon, that really was a great thing, a great win for the county back in 2024. So kind of taking that momentum and the planning that has been done over the last several years, we're in a pretty good position to be able to fund a larger capital item that we'll talk about tonight. So scenario 1, this is the option that completes the estimated jail project and phase 1 of the highway shop. Phase 2 of the highway shop would not be completed until potentially 2027 at the earliest. So what I'm going to do is walk through this financing plan from the left side of the page to the right side of the page. And for those who have taken a look at the packet, the statement of explanation is really good. That kind of walks through the different options, the 2 different scenarios in your packet, but I'll walk through it as well. So when you look at the left side of the page, the net existing debt service, so that's currently what the county is paying on its outstanding obligations. Now, the outstanding obligations, have issues that were done from 2015 or earlier to most recently with the most recent issues for capital improvement projects. You can see there that the $2.9 million that your current debt service levy is at is going to drop in 2026 down to $1,491,000. So about a $1.5 million drop between 2025 and 2026. And why that's important is because it allows the opportunity to be able to fund a larger capital project without having as significant of a tax impact to the taxpayers. So kind of a planned strategic drop, knowing that this was coming. This option, as I said, funds the jail project in full, the entire jail project, which is estimated to cost $33.5 million, and phase 1 of the highway shop. So the thought would be to finance about $28.5 million of the jail at the end of 2025 to get the project started, start paying invoices, etc. As same thing with the highway shop. In 2026, that is when the scheduled and every other year capital improvement project would be financed, which is $3 million. And many of you who have been on the board a long time may remember that a few years ago, we started implementing a more structured long-term borrowing plan that allows the county to fund up to approximately $3 million to help pay for roads, equipment purchases, etc. So we modeled that $3 million in this financing plan, and that's going to be paid over a 10-year period because of the useful life of those projects. The remaining $5 million on the jail will also be financed potentially in early 2026. Now, the reason why we're trying to keep this financing in 2026 to be $10 million or less is because it's considered bank qualified debt, meaning that it's it's a small amount of financing in a calendar year, ultimately giving banks an incentive to buy these type of bonds. And ultimately what that means for you is you potentially are going to get a lower interest rate when you do that. So we're trying to keep this at under $10 million. So at $3 million plus the $5 million is the $8 million in 2026. Now, if the jail ends up coming in, say, less than the $33.5 million, then we do not borrow for that remaining $5 million final piece. And that's why we kind of are structuring it to not fund the entire project right away, to kind of break it up into chunks in the event that you don't need that final piece of the financing. And ideally, we don't need to borrow for that. Then in 2027, once some debt has been paid off, hopefully the county has been growing. At the earliest, we could look at doing the phase 2 of the highway shop for the remaining $10 million of that project. Now, the current highway the highway shop is estimated to cost about $16 million. By waiting, there is going to be potential inflation related to that phase 2 of the project. So we're anticipating that, based on different estimates, it may be a 4%, around 3.94% inflation factor on that highway shop, which may add about $1 million to the total cost of the project. So that's why in 2027, we have a financing of $10 million. Again, trying to keep that at $10 million or less for that financing for bank qualified purposes. So between the two, it would be 33.5 for the jail and 17 for the highway. We've also factored in that $3 million capital improvement project financing for $3 million every other year in the combined future debt service column. So we've modeled in that kind of hypothetical future debt service. Now that's going to be up to you and future boards to decide if you want to continue to pursue that or not. But that's just us modeling it in for long-term purposes. When we think about the impact these financings may have on the county, this is where it is in the right side of the page, the blue there. So currently for the debt service mill rate on the existing obligations, again, that $2.9 million, that's the 1.60 per thousand. So essentially, $160 per $100,000 valuation on a property. Now, if we add in the financings for the jail and the highway and the CIP in the future, et cetera, the potential tax impacts that the taxpayers may feel may be 30 cents in 2026, 30 cents, an additional 30 cents in 2027, an additional 20 cents in 2028, and then the final additional 19 cents in 2029 for a total impact between the two different projects in full to get them both done of 99 cents per thousand, or $99 per $100,000 on a home valuation in Rusk County. Then it essentially stays the same for a period of time. And then as debt is being paid off and things are rolling off, that's when we eventually get to a point where the mill rate will begin to drop, assuming a 2.5% growth factor to the valuation of the county. As we've talked about in the past, the county has grown pretty significantly over the last couple of years. A lot of that has to do with just general inflation that we've seen around the state of Wisconsin. But, looking back the last 20 years, the average has been closer to 4% for an average growth in the county. So we're hopefully using a conservative growth factor of 2.5% to model this out. Now, the other thing to consider is, the general obligation borrowing capacity for the county. So counties in Wisconsin are allowed to borrow up to 5% of your equalized valuation. Now, in no way would we want the county to ever come close to borrowing that full statutory authority of 5%. What we want to make sure is that the county has a sufficient amount of capacity at all times in case something unforeseen happens, and just for good financial characteristics. So we modeled in everything that I just went through on the prior page. So the existing is the black bars there. That's your outstanding obligations that the county has on the books. The blue is the jail kind of first part, the $28 million for the jail. Then we layer in the highway for the $7 million in red. And you can see how it's kind of stacked and stacked and stacked until we get to a point where essentially at the capacity for the county remains at 41% plus at all times. And the goal here is to always maintain around 40% plus at all times. So, because when we were modeling this out a year ago, 2 years ago, we were kind of modeling when could we potentially do the highway shop? When could we do these things? And, at that time, the county hadn't grown to the levels that we've seen over the last two plus years. So it's allowed us to be able to move up some projects. At the same time, those project costs have come down from when we were originally modeling them, because originally we were looking at 38.5 for the jail and potentially 25 for the highway shop. So, fortunately, with the combination of different factors of growing a little bit higher, much higher than anticipated over the last couple of years, plus the project costs coming down, allows us to look at over the next 4 years to be able to get these projects done if it's so desired by the county. Now, scenario 2 is the scenario that the ad hoc committee recommended. And what this does is shows a financing plan that would finance the highway shop in full starting in 2025. So a total project cost of $16 million. So same kind of thought as the prior scenario, where the left side of the page is your existing debt service, and then we're layering in the financings for the highway shop and potential future jail project. So in this scenario, what we're doing is we're trying to minimize the interest rate that potentially is going to be received, and keeping this issuance at $10 million or less. So $9.5 million in 2025. Then in 2026, we have the $3 million CIP plus the remaining portion of the highway shop of $6.5 million, for a total of $9.5 in 2026. Then in 2027, that's when we could potentially, and again, at the earliest, using the assumptions that we have, look at financing the jail project. Now, the jail, based on what we've heard on inflation estimates related to a jail, is higher than a highway shop, just because of the nature of the materials and so forth. So that had an inflation factor of about 8% from what we've heard. So we modeled that to say, at $33.5 million, if we take the inflation over a couple of years, what could it cost in 2027? And that's where we came up with a total potential financing amount of $39 million for the jail if we wait a couple of years. When we go to the right side of the page, what's the impact of this scenario? And when we look at the far right, you can see that the impact would be about 4 cents in 26, 4 cents in 2027, an additional 4 cents, and then an additional 73 cents, an additional 22 cents, for a total potential tax impact of $1.03. So that one would have a potential impact on a $100,000 property of $103 versus the $99 on the prior scenario 1. On this scenario, now, when we think about, this $32.5 million, are we going to do that in 2027? that's, going to be totally dependent when we get to 2027 on what things look like at that particular point in time. We could potentially phase this out over a longer period of time, potentially 2 years, 3 years, depending on the construction schedule for that. But this is really to give kind of an apples to apples comparison, side by side, scenario 1 versus scenario 2, and what the potential impacts may be between the two. So in the general obligation capacity for scenario 2, you can see it's pretty consistent with scenario 1, where this one just dips below 40% in one particular year, 2028. Otherwise, it stays above 40% in every year thereafter. And as you pay down debt, that capacity only increases year over year. So you can see, like, even in that 2028, the capacity is potentially going to be about $41 million still in available capacity for the county. So in case something comes up, you've got that breathing room available to you. We've already had discussions with Standard and Poor's about a potential larger capital item coming, this year and next year. So they are aware. They've already considered that. We've talked to them, and they obviously kept our rating the same when we did the financing at the end of last year for the capital improvement projects. So we're in good shape from a financial standpoint to be able to get this done and ideally keep the rating the same. Obviously not my decision. We're trying to do everything possible to make sure you stay at the good bond credit rating. But ultimately, I think we've set it up to allow us to be able to be in a good position to keep that rating. The last page of the presentation is a summary between the two. It just kind of highlights the two different scenarios side by side, the different potential borrowing amounts and potential impacts that the county taxpayers may see. When we looked at the median property value in Rusk County, it was about $189,000. So, I think this is probably the main area to look at is what is that potential impact going to be on someone with that home value over the next 4 years. And again, it's not $187 potentially in scenario 1, year 1. It's building up to get to that $187 over the next 4 years, and then staying there for a period of time.
Is there any questions for Justin? Any questions for Justin? Justin, I do have one question. You mentioned our average growth is 4% in Rusk County. They said the last couple of years have been higher. Do you know what the percentage the last couple of years has been?
The last couple of years off, I have it through 2023 right in front of me. So 2022, we saw 16%. 2023, it was 11%. And I believe 2024 was 10%.
That's what I have as well, Justin.
And if their growth rate was high like that, it would change a little bit.
Correct.
Yeah. Based on 4%.
Yeah, I'm assuming 2.5%. But again, regardless at this point of the growth that we see for the county, I think it makes a lot of sense to try to phase these projects over time. Just because one, from a bond rating perspective, to show the plan of being able to finance a project, start trying to pay it off, and then, get the next project rolling in, shows a strategic plan versus a kind of a huge one lump sum right at once.
Right. If nobody has any Other questions for Justin? Go ahead, Mr. Whitaker.
Justin, thank you for doing all these analysis and everything, but I just have a fear that maybe the percentage increase in the jail costs are more than what you're showing on here, because in the last 2 or 3 years, the rates have been much, much higher. And, using 8% or whatever, granted, the cost for highway shop is lower for the materials and everything, but I fear that maybe this could be off by quite a bit if we don't look at the last few years and everything. I think even like a 15% increase in construction for the jail per year. And if you move that out, if you don't start it until 27 or something, you're talking about like $50 million for a jail, if you postpone it. So I'm just wondering about estimates used.
Yeah, Terry, I think that's a great point to bring up, and I, that's not my area of expertise. But what I would say is that when we started looking at this project back in 2020, 2021, I think the numbers that were given to me was a jail would cost around 10 million at that time. And here we are talking about, 33.5. And I understand that the last several years have construction costs have been higher than usual. So, I don't know where it's going to go into the future, especially who knows what these tariffs are going to do, if they even stick. What is that going to do for inflation? But in construction costs, but yes, I mean, there is that uncertainty, absolutely, when you kind of defer a project that's a little bit higher cost, especially when we're talking a jail with those type of materials, that the costs could be higher than what we're anticipating.
Good.
Just wondering what the state is going to do. How long are they going to leave us alone, or where they are going to say we can't have anybody in the jail anymore?
I'm not sure if that's a question Justin might not know. That's related to finance. Anybody else have any questions for Justin? Anybody else got any questions for Justin? Hey, thanks, Justin.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, next on the agenda, we have the presentation by River Outfitters to offer to purchase parcel 260-60-0000 on Port College Avenue in Port Arthur, Road. If you'd like to walk us through your proposal, that would be great.
Sure. I'm Lynette Tudor, and this is my husband, Rod Schaefer. We own Flammable River Outfitters across the street. We've been a little affected by the jail. You guys have looked at that potential, so that got us thinking. Maybe time for us to go on our own and not rent from you all. Nothing bad, just thinking on our own. So then when we found out that you guys did have some property available and with a lot better exposure than we have way back here, I went to Ashley and said, okay, what do I do? We're new to this. We're brand new. We've never bought any commercial. And so she sent me some stuff. I made a few mistakes, but then we got them all. We got it figured out. We made this proposal up, kind of explaining what we were looking to do. We want to make a little bit bigger shop, not huge, bigger than we are now. We want to expand some of what we offer. We are doing, it's a solid fishing business, but our archery business has gone a lot more. So we'd like to have a bigger area to shoot the archery, to sight in the bows and arrows and all that kind of good stuff. And the guys at the shop think we need to have a golf simulator. Well, we'll see about that. So we feel that being out there, we feel we have a really good business of the true fishermen, the hunters, the whatever. The only way to expand our business is to be more seen. See all those cars coming up 27 that are heading to Hayward, to Winter and beyond. And we've prided ourselves at having bait for 24 hours a day and good off hours for people to stop by. When we would, if we could build, we would build also, we would need a fairly big parking lot, because we want to make sure that those people are able to come in with their camper in their car, with their boat in their car or truck or whatever. So we would have to have a fairly big circle or turnaround or places for them to park. So it's convenient for them to come to us and make us attractive to come to us. We're also feeling that with some added space, we would be maybe dabble into the web and sell online as well to increase our business as well. So potentially we would be able to hire a couple more people to work for us as well, but also selling more goods for things like that. Financially, we have gone local to our Ladysmith Federal. It is for what we proposed, for what we are offering to buy it for. It's a little more than that because we bigger area. That's one of my mistakes, that I didn't figure that out. But we're in good standing with them. We shouldn't have any problem financing the building. We have not touched base a lot on how the building will look, how big the building is 100%. Again, we're novices. We have spoke to a couple contractors in the Chippewa and the Eau Claire area, only because there isn't that type of person here, or company here. But we would potentially pick our general contractor, knowing that we would like to also employ as many of the people in the Rusk County area. Let's say AKA the plumber, the guy doing the parking lot, the landscaping, those kind of things, that we would like to bring those in. We feel that as a small businesses, we want to help the next small business as well to succeed. Don't know. We were asked, we came to a meeting before here and we were asked about staying overnight. We said, no, not that. And what else? We were asked something else. What else did you ask us? Financing, which we said we were fine. That
I think we talked a little bit about your financing was for the grounds, and we talked a little bit about like a building construction loan or what you're looking at, and you kind of explained.
Yeah. So we didn't ask for more than the $250,000. So we feel that we should be able to have no problem having more, because obviously the building is probably going to cost us more than the land will. As far as what we want it to look like, a mini Bass Pro. That outdoorsy looking, that, that hunting, fishing looking, kind of a nice facade to come into, but big enough inside to have all that we would like to have. We think that's about what we had. As far as signage and things like that, we would try to be tasteful, have signage out. We did put a little bit in our proposal. We're not sure where the signs came from on the outside of our building now where we're at, those 2 murals, if those are county or part of our proposal is we were wondering is if you let us have this and we go onto that phase that we could have those murals as well. So we're bringing some of the old with the new and put on the outside of our building as well. So I think that's about it. If there's any other questions for Rod or I.
Are there any questions for Rod and Lynette here? Any questions?
I just think we should keep the murals so the guys in jail don't know they're in jail.
You're all hard. Oh, yeah. Would you, want to kind of touch on any of the contract provisions at the end of your,
Okay, yeah, we did speak about that as a little bit. We've been told by more than one person that possibly the old school or music school was on that property back in the day. I'm sorry, I didn't live here at that point. That they buried a bunch of stuff on that property. Meaning AKA metal desks, beds, cabinets, things like that. So our only kind of stipulation that we were hoping we could do is to see if we could have somebody go on the property and check that out. Dig down a little bit, or sonar somehow to figure it out, metal detector or something to kind of help us see if how big a mess it is for us to have to tackle before we can even begin to build. So that's our only real concern. We feel everything else, we've been in business and did business long enough that we can figure everything out with a little bit of help from a few people and we can do it. But that was one that we were just a little scared on.
the contingency is that you would be able to test the soil before?
Yeah, just to make sure that there's nothing bad. Other than that, we're fine as is, just.
And also your contract it suggested that you planned on building a building, but doesn't guarantee a building. Build.
We plan on building. Yeah, we plan on building. And as we spoke with you all in that little meeting before, we would, as soon as we knew that we had the land, we would start the next process. So, and however long that takes, being permits and things like that and utilities and all that good stuff to do, weather.
As far as we know on the county level, it is appropriate for what you're looking for.
If I'm not mistaken, the hospital has a sign there, is that correct? Is there any long-term agreement that we would have to figure out to that
Person
located?
you were on that, and she could kind of explain what we talked about earlier on that.
Yep, so, or if you want to jump in, Rich.
So there's a 2016 agreement between the Russ County Memorial Hospital, City of Ladysmith, and the IDC. That was a 5-year agreement, but other than that, no agreement's been done since that time. It's not an agreement with Marshfield. It's, again, the sign there with electronics. Marshfield runs the optics or whatever from that, but other than that, no, there's nothing. And when we sold got rid of the wind down expense fund or anything, nothing was brought up regarding any permanence as to that. So.
Any other questions?
We would note that we would be willing to work with them as well. We don't want to say, take it down. That's not fair.
Mr. Kudo.
Well, just curious, so you're approved for the $250,000 to buy the land.
Yeah.
So would you be borrowing from the same institution to make the building?
Yes, we would.
Are they aware of that?
Yes.
That you need to borrow the additional funds?
Yes. And maybe not all of it. We have a fair amount to put down.
They.
Absolutely.
Additional funding.
Yes, and
This isn't all of this.
we could get more of that information. So we were pretty novice to doing some of this, so. Yeah.
Questions? Mr. Wedwick.
Yeah, I think you'd mentioned in our meeting too, that when you borrowed the 250, that was more than you needed.
Yeah.
And based on this, so any excess stuff could go toward the building and everything
Right,
like that.
right.
Because at that time, you didn't realize all of the.
Right. Yeah, that it was a little bit smaller amount.
Right.
We based it off of the auditor, and then went back and went, oops. So, yeah, so obviously we have that extra already pre-approved with them. So we're really not, even if we go back to the bank, we're not gonna need a whole lot more. We, again, we're kind of like you, how much the building expenses will cost.
Mr. Meyer?
Rich, I have it in my head that we had something in that agreement with the hospital if that sign could stay there. I thought it was brought up somewhere, unless it was brought up previous, and that's what I have stuck in my head.
Yeah, as far as
Had an agreement
I,
that could say
nothing on this transaction with that had anything permanent there.
On this last one. Okay. That was all.
And the reason you guys said that originally were looking at 250 was. you were looking
We
at-
thought it was the 5 point something, yeah, 5 point something acre. Yeah,
With that in there.
5 point something acres versus the 3.7 acres.
It's when they were compiling their proposal, the CSM hadn't finalized yet, so on the GIS map, it was still showing the full parcel.
Any more questions? More questions? And if not, there's something on the agenda further down the Hanson.
Yes, now, the part that they need there, it will be 142,000, right? Make sure everybody knows that. It's not the 250.
That's what the proposal says. But the 250 was coming.
For the whole thing.
They got the approval from the bank for the loan. Right, any more questions? Any more questions? Thank you very much.
You.
Next on the agenda is the resolution authorizing proceeding with design. Oh, sorry. Forgot about the addendum. Next on the agenda is the highway annual report. And Sky.
All right, hello, everybody. Here's our annual presentation for the highway department. Our mission, work cooperatively in promoting developing and prioritizing improvements to safety of state on highways. Vision of safe and efficient travel and economic growth on county and state highways. Work in cooperation with neighboring districts, local townships and villages, City of Ladysmith, Wisconsin Department of Transportation, and Rusk County Board of Supervisors, as well as other authorities associated with the Department of the Rusk County Highways. Identify short-term needs of Rusk County highways and develop costs associated with those needs. Study long-term needs from a safety perspective first and also from an economic perspective. Develop a long-term plan, including the scope of improvements and the cost associated with those improvements. Submit project proposals and grant requests to the proper authorities and districts in order to secure available funds for the department, growth, and safety of Rusk County highways. On the next slide, organization chart of kind of how our employees are in the chart. Next slide, please. The highway department operates as an internal service fund. What does that mean? An internal service fund, all costs are captured within the fund using cost pools or project groups. Costs are recovered by charging for all services provided to the county, funds, and customers such as state, local districts, county departments, and others. Operation of internal service fund can be compared to running a business in the private sector. Wisconsin statute 83.0153A states, each county board, excepting counties of population over 750,000 or over, shall provide for and require a county highway committee and a county highway department to use a system of cost accounting devised by the Department of Revenue. So who we work for? We work for Wisconsin Department of Transportation, also known as WisDOT. There is 105 center lane miles in Ross County of state roads, 29 bridges. 105 center lane miles is equivalent to 210 lane miles. So when they measure center lane miles, it's just from the center all the way to the state and the county. But if you take it to plowing, then it becomes 210 because you go down and back. For the state, we also do crack sealing, potholes, culverts, shoulder repairs, just to name a few items that we take care of on the state system. For Ross County itself, we have 255 center lane miles and 47 bridges. Plus, we have short spans now. Short spans are anything greater than 6 feet, less than 20. We have a fair amount, somewhere about 60 of those. Same thing with the 255 center lane miles for the county system, equates to 510 lane miles. General winter maintenance and construction projects. Anything the highway department is capable of doing, we do it. We do stuff for municipalities. We got 24 towns, 8 villages, and general winter maintenance, culvert aid, and special projects. Sales and delivery of materials and shop services. Sales and delivery of materials would be culverts, sand, salt, miscellaneous items that they would purchase through the highway department. And then county departments, special projects, shop services, repairs on anything throughout the county that they would ask us to work on, or small projects as far as culverts, small blacktop repairs throughout the county departments. Dual function internal service fund. Internal operations include buildings and grounds, fuel handling. Shop is where we do repairs. Equipment operation is where we generate our equipment fund. We have pits, 6 of them, 1 being dormant. Bituminous operations, that's our asphalt working, making mix, laying it down using a paver. Brine operations, we make brine at our facility with the equipment we have there for the state roadways. Fringe benefits, a calculation of time off plus benefits, small tools, everyday essential items that are used in the field. Transportation services include administration, general and winter maintenance. So general winter maintenance, primarily plowing, brush cutting, potholes. Sometimes college freeze, we go out there and have to break it open, steam it. Road construction. Road construction is resurfacing, crack sealing, culverts, ditching. Bridge construction, we facilitate a program to co-op in cooperation with KBIS, who is our bridge inspector. Bridge and culvert aid, aiding townships through this program, including through the 6 to 20 program. More internal operations, buildings and grounds. To achieve the cost at the top, the full cost, it was multiplied the square foot by the square feet by the square foot, and that would become your total cost. Everything in this list is allocated to buildings grounds. Fuel handling. Fuel handling, this last year was about $25,000. We received a surcharge of $23,000. Calculation, the fuel surcharge of 11 cents per gallon. We'll keep the fuel surcharge at 10%, 10 cents per gallon. Shop operations. Total cost was approximately $236,000 for 2024. $0 were recovered with no overhead rate. Shop overhead rate is new this year. It is a calculation of 2024 costs. This will be Ross County's first year doing this. This helps cover indirect labor, parts, personnel, shop truck, and miscellaneous expenses that arise from the shop operations. Equipment. The cost and the revenue, which resulted in $140,000 loss to our equipment fund this year. We had a down year last year, which was part reason for our equipment fund taking loss. We didn't run our equipment as much as we had anticipated. There was situations that had come arise that we could not control. Simply turnover rate had a factor that played in that. So anytime we use our equipment, it generates equipment fund. If our equipment's not running, it's not generating equipment fund. So then you have costs, and you have no return from your equipment fund, and that's where you would have a loss. As well as mild winters are not helping that case either. We can't control the weather, so that's just what we deal with at times. Pits and quarries. We have $47,000 cost and $58,000 land lease and royalties. Royalties is material sold to townships. Resulted in $11,000 gain towards this fund. This fund provides future pit stripping and pit reclamation. Bituminous operations. Total cost just over $1 million with total revenue 1.1. And a bond payment of $168,000 resulted in $123,000 loss. Again, we did not run our equipment, so we could not generate revenue. The revenue is equipment rate charged by the plant and sale of materials. The bond payment is for the plant. Last year, we only produced 14,000 tons. This number is approximately half the tonnage that needs to be produced to make the plant efficient and cover its costs. The loss is because of the lack of tonnage that gets put through it. If we put more tonnage, just like anything, supply and demand. The highway department would need to increase blacktop prices in the future to recover these costs. Our brine operations. This is our total cost and revenue over brine system in 2024 winter season. We had a loss of $152. Again, resulted from a mild winter. Not a big loss, but it is a fringe benefits, $736,000 total cost over items in the list here. PTO holiday on call, FICA retirement, health insurance, safety allowance, uniforms, and more. Small tools, or excuse me, the fringe benefit rate is at 79%. And that's added to labor that is performed on work to recover our fringe benefit. Small tools, $19,000 total costs. This item below will generate the cost and 2% small tool rate applied and added to the fringe and labor to recover it on jobs performed outside. Administration, total cost of $265,000, just about getting close to $266,000. It consists of the commissioner, office staff, the wages for them, the benefits and travel expenses. Highway committee per diems and expenses, audit and contracted services, commissioner vehicle repairs, insurance, and shop overhead. Some office supplies, telephone, postage, publications, buildings and grounds allocations, depreciation of office equipment. Some costs recovered by charging administration to WISDOT. The rest are recovered by levy. General winter maintenance. So we had near 1.5 for total cost for general winter maintenance. Or general maintenance, excuse me. Winter maintenance was $443,000 for the winter cost. Last year, we cut $100,000 out of our paving budget and $136,000 out of other activities to accommodate 25 budget. $236,000 was taken from our maintenance of our roadways, which is crucial to the upkeep on our road system, our infrastructure, whether it be crack sealing, potholes, patches, rough paving, again, but all of it is needed. This cut impacts our ability to fulfill needed maintenance. It's funded by levy and GTA, general transportation. Road construction for 24, we had 783,000 in total cost. The 25 budget includes 1.8 million. It's because of the last year we had a low year with the situations that we had at hand with the terminals. So we have a fair amount of work this year. We have 3 projects, 2 on the same road, and then 1 to finish a roadway that to join the 2 pavements back together. It's also funded by bonds and LRIP. County M project, that's a BIO project, bipartisan infrastructure law. It is for County M North. The costs come in from the architects that are designing the road for 27. It's set right now for 27. And they have been moving that. Hopefully it can stay there. It is an 80-20 split. We are probably going to have to shorten the scope of the project because they will not cover the 80-20 beyond the initial cost. So, which is fine because we can only do so much with what we have. We did overlay County J in the township of Hubbard, just east of the Hubbard Town Hall. We did some overlaying there. County D from 27 to Nazar Road. That was approximately 2.2, 2.3 miles, grind and pave, with LRIP funding of 75,000 towards that. County I, we did an overlay down there, and then also on County I, we had a culvert replacement through an LRIP project. Bridge construction. About 9,000 total cost. Residual costs left from constructed bridges in prior years. You'll have contractors, engineers send small bills after the project's done to finalize everything. We have no county bridges in the county bridge program or in the funding program right now. We have 3 bridges that will need to be in it, and this year is the biennium that we can put the owners in and apply for this program, typically in 80-20. Bridge locations are County B, just south of Glen Flora, just north of Town Line Road. County P, just east of the Flammable School. County H, north end there, just before the corner. Is it Meadow Dam Creek? I can't remember the creek exactly. We have 2 short spans. That was a 6-20 program that I kind of touched on earlier. County G, just south of Dowdy Road. County P, just on the west side of 27. Past Stanger's Farm, just past, not in not the one by the river, but or the big lake, but the one more to the west. Those are going to have an inspection done on them. I've been talking, we had Iowa committee meeting on that. We're gonna have them inspected. Should be Friday, so we can actually set the ratings. They're at 10 ton right now, and that's sufficient before they are rated. That was advised by the KBIS to set them at 10 ton. Bridge and culvert aid. We had about 38,000 total last year for bridge and culvert aid. It's a 50-50 split with towns. Town of Dewey was about $7,400, and then the town of Marshall had 15,000 of culvert aid. The rest is residual costs left from the bridge construction in prior years. One Town of Dewey Bridge is in the program, 100% federally funded. That is the Josie Creek Bridge. Funded by levy, but the costs are eligible to go over the levy limit. We have equipment purchases on this slide. Placed into service. There's a few there that roll over from the previous year that were received until 24. Work in progress. Those are the ones that we had purchased this last year. 2 needed pickups to update our older inventory of our trucks. 45 and 46 are triaxle dump truck plow trucks. The numbers associated underneath are 245, 645, 745, and 845 are all separate attachments that are put on the piece of equipment when it comes from the body fitter. That is equipment we need for our winter maintenance. They each have their own numbers so they can be charged individually to generate the equipment fund. Here's a few pieces of our equipment that we had received last year. Drop truck, one of the new triaxle dump trucks, one of the pickups, a loader, and a hot patcher.
Would you be able to explain how the internal service fund works a little bit? Like, what do you do with the money that comes into the internal service fund? Is that used for equipment purchases? Still, that might be a Sky question too.
So the cost pools are, stay within the highway department. Allocated, those costs out. That's why we have those rates, like the fringe benefit rate, the small tool rate. Shop overhead rate that we're implementing now to recover those costs because they stay within the highway department. The transportation services are what we charge to the account. Taxpayers pay for. So we use the cost pools as a group of accounts where all the costs related to that buildings and grounds is everything related to in the properties, all our buildings, any maintenance, plowing, utilities, things like that. Although all the costs calculate where we divide them, spread them out to.
Any other questions?
I have two. For the state, for the plowing maintenance that you do on the state roads, how much does the state pay the county for doing that?
So every year we have an RMA, it's a routine maintenance agreement that we sign with the state. This year, I think it was $780,000 worth of work that state reimburses us for. 780, correct? So
sounds about right.
Like 782 or 783, somewhere in there. So whenever we're on a state system, whether it's plowing, patching, they reimburse the equipment cost and they reimburse the labor of the employees. So this summer we will have a chip seal project north on 27. That will be a DMA. That is money on top of the RMA that will take care of that cost of that project on 27.
DMA is what?
Discretionary maintenance agreement. Or routine is every year. Discretionary is where they would fill in projects like that and would make a fund for that.
Okay. Second question is, what is the indirect labor you had mentioned?
Like our parts person, they don't charge their time to nothing except for our, they charge their time out and their time would go to our equipment fund. So there's no return and there's no charge. He does a lot of our billing for the parts. He orders the parts, he goes through and he enters a lot of information through the parts system, but his wages are not reimbursed through working on equipment or other situations that be chargeable.
But he is in the highway department. Yes.
Correct.
Paid.
Yes.
I can explain a little bit more. So shop operations is another one of those cost pools. And most, our mechanics, when they're working on equipment, they're charging their time to that. And we, like, if it's a highway piece of equipment, we recover that from the equipment fund. And if it's for a district or a department, we bill them for that time. So our parts person does not work directly on anything that is billable. So all of his time goes to the shop operations. So it's indirect.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Moore.
So gonna take to make that blacktop plant profitable? I mean, it's pretty much a loss. Is it because we don't bid out enough jobs on it, or any ideas? I mean, how?
Big thing is trying to bring our costs back down. And to bring our costs back down, it takes money to run our plant to do more work with it. And on the county side, you bring your costs back down, it's gonna cost money to bring that back down. When it's hard to compete with the private contractor right now, they can undercut us, say, do we want the job done? We come in at X dollars and they come in under $1 right now because they can simply do that. So we need to use more blacktop to bring our costs down so we can be competitive. For us to, to be competitive, you gotta spend the money, and that's the only way about it.
Any other questions for Justin? Oh, last page. Oh. Go ahead.
You want to keep it? Okay. The year in review. So we hired an operations manager, 2 mechanics, 3 highway workers, finance accountant, 3. We created a shop foreman position. We had resignations of commissioner, operations manager, 1 mechanic, 3 highway workers, and finance accountant 3. Also in that list there were 2 interim commissioners. Retirement of 1 mechanic, 1 highway worker, and 1 finance accountant 1. The mild winters resulted in more general maintenance work. We can't control the winter, so that's less equipment use, less generated through the equipment fund. So general winter maintenance consists of brush cutting, repairs on miscellaneous equipment throughout the winter. General maintenance. We began Safe Streets for All, SS4A. Initiative in collaboration with other counties. There's 2 other counties, and LCO is involved with that as well. At the highway department, we have 23 employees and 24. Right now, we're down to 19. We have 2 new hires that will be starting soon. Out of those 19 employees, 8 of them employees have 10 or more years of experience. Otherwise, it's less and less and less because we've had turnover. Looking ahead to 25, had the funds cut back into the budget, 236,000 would really help the highway department. Increasing the road construction budget would help us produce more blacktop and would bring our costs down. Not initially, it'll take time. Continue maintenance and construction plan that improves our infrastructure. Now, this next one, 255 miles. That's what the county has, center lane miles. Now, at a 30-year, it'd be 8.5 miles per year. On a typical year, we're about half, maybe 4 or 5 miles a year. That's at a 30-year plan, it'd be 8.5 miles per year. Now, 30 years is a long time for a road. A lot of our roads are 20 plus years. The ones that are obviously looking bad, they're 20 plus years old. Due to a 25-year plan at 255 miles, you would be looking at 10.5 miles per year. And it all costs money, but these are just to show you the turnaround and the time it takes with the amount of road we have in this county. Implement a 5-year construction program that will accommodate our infrastructure goals. Set in place an equipment replacement program. Address highways degrading facilities. Also, addressing wages to retain employees. Also bring our experience level back up, as you can retain more money. That's,
Now we're to the question.
that's the presentation.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
As far as the resignations, there were 1 or 2 big issues that you can tell us?
The most recent ones were for money. What was it? Since December, we've lost 6 employees, current, 6 employees, and all of them left for more money.
Question. Having to do with, are we keeping up with our ratings for our county roads?
Or is rating our roads ourselves, or how are the ratings on our roads?
Well, I know there's a rating system that
Phaser.
I pretended to understand from time to time, but are we actually improving our roads at a rate that at least maintains those ratings or increases them?
No, 4 to 5 miles a year on 255 miles, we are not keeping up with it.
So I seem to remember that, somebody can correct me, how many years ago, we actually bonded extra money to accelerate some of our road construction and repairs. To try to keep that rating up and perhaps make some improvements. I think you mentioned during our tour at the facility that you could do more work for the state if you had a few more employees. Is that correct?
It would help us do more work, but then you run into a scenario of the levy. Too. Yes, you would take the money off of the county system with the state system, but as soon as that come off, you hit wintertime, then newer employees are on levy because they're on the county system.
My concern is that if we're not keeping up and we're not addressing that, then we're creating more problems down the road. Infrastructure. And at some point in time, it's going to cost us a bundle because, you get to a point where they're not usable. So it seems to me that maybe we need to take another look, increasing our expenditures. And when we borrowed money, at least for additional construction, if we were using bonding, at least the debt service portion of that was not affecting the levy. And if we have a underperforming asphalt plant, we did more construction, maybe we would not be losing money with our asphalt plant as well. Because obviously, the more work we do and the more we use it, better efficiency we get from the equipment. Leaving it, to me anyway, leaving the blacktop plant idle is a recipe for disaster. Even if we're losing money, if you were, say you were operating a small little restaurant and you decided to sell it, guessing you'd have a better chance of selling it if the guy who might be interested in buying it could stop in and eat a hamburger and find out, what the equipment is and how it works and whether it's usable or not. I can't imagine somebody coming in, buying our blacktop plant if we want to sell it and not having it up and running so that they can see that it actually will do what we say it will do. I'm guessing that we bought it under the other scenario where we didn't see whether it was, how much of it was producing and so forth. And I think that was the story of the previous blacktop plant as well. So I'm just, I'm looking at this and thinking, nobody wants to borrow money. Maybe being more futuristic in our thinking, to catch up, providing more jobs for our department, and maybe taking a shot at getting the blacktop plant to pay for itself. And all in all, maybe making our people that live on those roads a little happier. But I'm very concerned about if the quality ratings of our roads are it's going down every year. It's going to be a massive payout for that at some point, because they won't be usable at all.
Okay, the answer is what comes under the that service not affecting the levy. It's these levy caps, meaning we can go above. It adds to our levy.
Yes, doesn't affect the cap.
Above levy limits by borrowing money.
So to touch on what he said, when this plant was bought, there should have been some agreement figured out on what amount of tonnage we needed to agree to put out in this plant, so we could drive our costs back down. Now that, if it happened, it hasn't gone through, but I don't think that happened when we looked at purchasing this plant. I wasn't part of that, but I can tell you that since I've been here with this plant, they haven't pushed out 30,000 ton. That is the number to kind of hit. I think we've hit 21,000 that one year when we were doing County F. And that hurts us because we never had any agreement on the amount of money we're going to put through the plant to bring our costs back down to try and capture these other jobs other than what the highway department needs are.
Mr. Meyer.
So to Justin, maybe to fill in an answer to kind of help Dave with his question a little bit. We're looking at it at the highway committee right now of the cost of running this plant, actually, because we're kind of coming to the assumption that maybe some of our costs per ton in last years weren't accurate. Maybe not all the labor was put in there. Mr. Kern's helping Justin, the consultant, trying to get to the bottom of this. So it sounds like they just kind of started peeling that onion. But I thought I heard him say at our last highway, it sounded like we need to be around 30,000 ton
Correct.
a year to probably get this to where it's, I've always been told since I've been on the committee, the more tons we can put out, the cheaper it is for us to make it. And I've went to some town board meetings in the past, and I get it. It's the town's job, just the same as ours, to take the cheapest quote. And because I think a lot of our numbers are public, a lot of times I see, it's $1,000 less for the project, or $1 a ton, or however they figure it. And I think that's some of the things we run across, but we're trying to slowly address that.
We've talked, and you can remember, Jim, that we talked several times about trying to develop a marketing plan for trying to get more township work, and trying to improve our PR. And I think there was some of that done, but probably not as much. And I fear that while Justin says that currently the private sector can undercut us on that cost, when they don't have to undercut us anymore, they're going to overcut us. We're going to be up to our eyebrows in high cost asphalt because we have no choice. We're out of the business, and wouldn't be any different if any other of our construction work, if we don't have the capacity to do it ourselves anymore, because we'll have to. So those are areas of concern that, you know, and I don't know how you know, if we can figure out a way to improve, and I realize there's some barriers with doing work for the townships because of the difference in how you bid them. I still think that that's an area that we ought to be pursuing.
A lot of these LRIPs that we're doing, you have to be 10% under any other bidder.
You have to be what?
If it's a government funded program, we have to be 10% under any other bidder.
10%, that's, yep, it's right in the LRIP guidelines.
There's a lot of these jobs we can't even bid on because they have restrictions where county can't do it. For the villages and small.
Yep. That's for us to, for them to purchase our asphalt, and even for our labor, we have to be 10% under the private contractor for them to accept our bid and receive their LRIP funds. That's one of the things that kind of brings up, keep talking about asphalt numbers. So in the past, even last year in County D, we did a 5-inch lift on our road down there from 27 to Nassau.
It works great too. I was on it just.
Yep. That road didn't need a 5-inch lift. That 5-inch lift was put in there because that is how we captured our LRIP funds. Because we cannot capture LRIP funds on our own asphalt. Because LRIP funds are there to have you have a private business come in and help with the job, and the LRIP pays their portion. Essentially is how that works. To help keep costs down for even the county. But to get that reimbursement, you have to hire a private contractor. So our private contractor, because we have a hot mix plant, is the gravel. So they come in and they lift the road 5 inches. So I go to slide. $13. This is the problem we've been running into. So County W got pushed and bumped ahead because of the money that's sitting out there for the project, because it sunsets June 30th. So we're crunch time right now. We got project set up. Pulverizing's happening this week. And after pulverizing, we are paving after their final grade. So that money that's left out there, we were not able to utilize on the project down on County I for the culvert, because the estimated cost was a lot less than what the actual cost was. So that money sat out there. This is last year when the project started. So we have till June 30th to use this money, otherwise we lose it and we don't get back. So if you look at County D, pave State Highway 27 Nassau Road, $657,000, $75,000 LRIP funds. There was $150,000 LRIP fund that's still out. That whole pool of money was $150,000. We only used $75,000 of it. So there's still $75,000 out there for that job that we got to try and allocate to another job to utilize it so we don't lose it. Now that one we have more time to deal with, but this W one, as the highway committee knows, we crunched to get this project done so we can use the $60,000 that's sitting out there that we don't, that we could put into our roads. The other issue we run into with LRIP, it's a great program, but with the funding we have, it's hard to produce your own blacktop and then use your LRIP, putting a gravel lift on a road that doesn't need it. That's a waste of money in my opinion. So take for instance, County M. We had this discussion. County M, north of Hawkins. You go up County M just by Elm Road, it starts to get deep in there, goes down by the swamp. Pretty wet, water runs over it. That's a road that needs a lift. It doesn't mean other spots and roads, like you might have a section that might need 2-3 inches here and there. But when you're lifting a road 5-6 inches, that is a section. I think we talked to MSA, we talked 10 to 12 inches there, but that's a road that actually needs a lift. County BC now, it used to be X. You go north and there, just about to where the corner would come up to where you would go up to the county and state forest. Goes down there, it's like rumble strips. That's another spot that would need a fair amount of liquid gravel. That whole road up here, sections do. Well, we brought it not utilizing our Albert funds like we should. That relates to the amount of money. So W, we are purchasing the hot mix because that is the way the project's set up. And we didn't have time to change it and put a 5 or 6 inch gravel lift on it to utilize them funds when it doesn't need 5 or 6 inches. So there's a lot of circumstantial stuff that goes into the LRIP system and how we operate. You know, it's not just like, hey, let's just throw the hot mix plant out. No, we gotta utilize what we have. We gotta be able to afford and make it adequate for the highway department to run this stuff efficiently and not lose money.
Looks like a 5-year plan might be beneficial as well.
Yeah.
Well, our longer term plan.
Right.
Justin? Vince? Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, next on the agenda is authorizing the design development for highway facilities replacement project.
Sad face on the computer. Have a red sad face that says, oh no, something's wrong.
I'm thinking so.
Elson,
I can do it on here if I get a motion second here.
For discussion, we would need a motion in a second to the table.
And we're gonna have to just tell.
And you'll have to always motion.
Oh, there, it's
Wait,
really bad.
Give us a second. You're gonna get the sad face back after that.
Like,
There's a problem with the computers right now, so if somebody wants to make a motion by voice on that.
it has a motion on their screen.
Yeah, they all have motions on there.
Table for the design and development for
They have-
highway.
On
So
their screen.
on there.
On the screen.
Oh, it's on yours. It's not up here. Okay.
There we go.
All right. All right, we got a motion by Mr. Moore and a second by Mr. Trudeau. Do you want to present? Is there that one or?
I mean, as far as what we decided at the committee level.
Yeah.
So we discussed this at the committee level and basically we took a vote on it. And our recommendation to this county board is to proceed with option number 2, where we option 2, right, where we go ahead and build the entire complex, the highway complex, and get it done. And postpone the jail until like 27 or 28. So there was several members of the board that went and toured the facility, and I, myself included, a lot of people is that the inadequacies and safety issues that take place at our existing facility was, it's really, first time for me to see certain portions of that. I think to see that if somebody comes in to go out and plow snow, that they may have to, because of the way the trucks have to be parked, they may have to move 3 or 4 trucks out of the garage to get to their truck because everyone has an assigned truck. The trucks cannot go in the garage with their plows on. To remove the plows and store them outside, where they can put the trucks in the garage. And then once they finally get their truck out and move all the other trucks back in, then they have to hook up to their plow, clean off the plow, etc. And so basically, you know, in a time of somebody could basically walk into the shop, pull out their truck and get on the road and start clearing the roads. We're looking at maybe an hour or better where they can actually get on the road. And it's actually, it's a safety issue for anybody that's trying to travel the roads in the county. So we felt that as the committee, that it was significant, actually less than half to do the entire project. That the current proposal for the jail is. And just thought that it made sense to do the project and get it done. And then we'd be done with that. County would have ample storage for their equipment. I mean, when you're looking at 500,000 for a truck, it's important. It's under a roof where it has proper means to wash the salt and sand off the truck after they use it, so that rust and the equipment lasts longer. It's just, I think any thought that with all these things in mind, it would be just a good idea to go ahead and get the thing done. Another thing as well is that there does seem to be an issue with both with the county highway department getting people to work there. And I think maybe some of this, I could be out of line here, but I think maybe part of that problem could be that people walk into that place and they look at it and say, why would I want to work here? It's a disaster. We had a new facility. You could walk in and say, it's a nice place. I really would like to work here. But I think we could possibly solve some of our hiring problems as well. So that being said, as I said, our proposal then is to move ahead with the 100% of the jail for the highway department project.
So, Mr. Russell?
Are you saying voting yes for this puts the jail second? Everything you just said, all those last words you just said about the highway department perfectly describe the jail. I can't imagine. Jail is a wreck. I'm not saying that we don't need a new highway department. But that jail is way past anything that should be putting people in and sending people work there. Is, it's the same thing as the highway department. But to me, a lot more critical need than this. So, right.
My button isn't working, Mr. Chair.
Oh, okay. I'll put you after Mr. Moreland. I'll put number 4 right now. Ms. Fox.
Question for you. You're saying complete the whole highway project. What is the whole highway project? Is it all the buildings also? Or is it just where they're?
It's one complete building. So there is the stage 1 was the initial.
Building. Yeah, it's just the building though. It's not any of the outside buildings that anything. It's just that one building where SAR.
This is the truck. So there's going to be a bay for repair. There's going to be a wash bay. There's going to be offices. This is like the whole.
You look at the screen. If you just did one step of this design, it would just be the top portion in the green and the blue there. And then you kind of cobble this together a couple of years down the road and do some of it at a time. Whereas if we did what came out of the ad hoc construction recommendation would be to do the whole project all at once and consider doing the whole jail project all at once in a couple of years down the road. It was not unanimous at the construction committee, as much as I voted for this. I didn't want to be transparent that it was a 3-2 split, so it was not a unanimous decision.
I didn't say it was unanimous.
No, you did not say that. I'm just clarifying because I don't want to seem biased because I'm voted for it, that I wanted to clarify about that.
You're to John Moore, Mr. William.
Mr. Wedwick?
Yes, I would second what Chairman just said. The vote was 3-2 to present this. I think you're ignoring a lot of other things. I don't think anybody disagrees that we need a new highway shop. I don't think anybody disagrees that we need a new jail. But the costs of the highway shop are increasing like roughly 4% a year. The costs for the highway shop, I know they use an estimate in here, 8. That's not what it's been in the last couple of years. It's been like 30%. So I'm saying to go even reasonably part way would be a 15% thing. If you move that down the road, and for another thing, Wold, we paid Wold to come in here and do the facility study. Their recommendation was the top priority was the jail. Second was the highway shop. So we're ignoring what they said. I think if you vote this in to do the highway shop first and put the jail down 3 years, 4 years, you're increasing the costs. I mean, it's going to be automatic instead of, 20 or 33.5. Now it's going to be 3 or 4 years. It's going to be over 50 million. I think, let me call on the sheriff. Don't we have some estimates or something based on a 15% cost of construction increasing each year? So if this didn't start until 2027, whatever date you put down, it's going to really increase the cost of the jail.
I can present those numbers if you want me to.
Not part of the agenda to present.
I'm trying to be transparent. Okay. The board has all the information that they need to make an informed decision.
Anything else?
Well, okay, if you're not letting him present, we've done some of the things, and I think if you go with 15%, which is probably maybe low, you're talking, so in other words, to summarize it up, we're ignoring what Wold did. And like I say, this was a 3-2 vote. You're going to increase the cost of the jail substantially. So basically you're raising the taxpayers' costs substantially in the future. So if you think they're going to be howling about this, just wait in 3 or 4 years when the jail comes up. It's going to be millions of dollars more.
Mr. Moore?
Yeah, well, nobody will argue. Everybody agrees we need a jail, we need a highway shop. I guess this committee, we hashed it over, and that's basically what we come up with to prioritize the 2 projects. And that's kind of what we come up with a 3-2 vote. I agree. Doing the highway shop and not forgetting the jail if necessary, but it is a couple years down the road. We can borrow more money for it, and that's, like I said, we hashed it, and that's what we come up with. So I guess we gotta decide which priority we want to go with.
Mr. Willingham?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are 2 things that occurred to me. Number one, after the tour, I got to thinking about it and thinking, gee, we're gonna give these guys this beautiful place to park their truck every night. But the guys that fix the truck are gonna be stuck in the old shop that I think were pointed out dozens of safety issues related to holes in the floor and grates and a whole bunch of other things. So we're not gonna do a good job of maintaining those trucks in the old shop. And it seemed to me that the suggestion of this plan has a lot of merit to it. Get it done. If you use the old shop for something else afterwards, maybe that would be a benefit too. But just having a nice building to park the trucks in, and then the mechanics having to work in bad conditions didn't seem to make sense to me. The other issue and the other suggestion that I have, and some input on this, I don't know. I understood the original design that we looked at a couple of months ago for the highway shop included a automated wash bay.
It's not an automated
whole
wash
thing?
bay.
What's that?
It's not an automated wash bay. It's got like an undercarriage wash, but it would be a hand wash bay. If
so
automatic, they tend to have problems.
I understand that the automated ones are very expensive to start with, and $200,000 of maintenance a year at best. That didn't seem to be a good investment for me. And I'd rather we hired another guy to wash trucks than spend $200,000 a year maintaining the fancier. That's can't say I'm done either. You can say I'm done, Colin.
Okay. I just want to reiterate what Mr. Wedwick said. It's since 21 through now, jail construction costs have been rising between 20 and 30% per year. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that if you use 15%, that's actually a pretty conservative number on how those costs will increase over the coming years. At 15%, just going from 25 to 27, that 33.5 million jail becomes a $44.3 million jail. There's just in the year that I've been on the board, there's been a lot of squawk about Wold saying they could have constructed a jail for 25 million. And in the meantime, this board has done nothing. And now we're faced with a $33.5 million jail. And we're willing to postpone it and let it approach 50 and not bat an eye at it. Blows me away. We have the picture of the highway department building, please, thank you. So I take issue with the term cobble together. If we build the green at the top is approximately 24,000 feet. And we were tasked, when we were talking about a jail construction, it was pointed out that possibly we could also afford to build 24,000 square feet of storage to begin helping at the highway shop. Those are concrete panels that, similar to Legos, can be removed and added on to. It's a pretty seamless process. And it's not complicated in any way. Inflation costs of this building are on about 4%, just like Mr. Baird said, or Justin from Baird said, which would increase costs if we wait 2 years by about $1 million. It just, to me, as unpopular with our constituents as a new jail is, it's still way more irresponsible of us to do this whole thing first and bypass the jail. Personally, I think we should think big. And I think we should do the jail and the 24,000 square foot. Do as much as we can now. And when, in doing that, commit the 2 years finishing that project. We had a presentation saying that we're capable of doing that. So that's all I want to say.
That's good.
I ask my question that I asked before, about what's gonna happen with inspection and the results of us not doing anything. Are they pressuring us? Are they threatening us? I don't know.
I think there is some of the regulation around that there is certain classifications and stuff that the state requests, and the sheriff has a certain authority over which different classifications and stuff there is there. Russell?
The point was, when we were there, all of their files were out, and if they had had a fire, they would all have burned up. In this new one, will there be something vaulted where they can put those very important papers into? And we didn't see anything in the plans.
The office space would have that.
Mr. Russell?
I apologize ahead for my sarcasm, but I think it's great that we're building a nice new shiny place for trucks and having a crap hole for people.
Schneider?
Regardless of the financial impact.
Come from a completely different angle. Reading on these figures, I couldn't read it on my computer. It was too damn small for my old eyes. If we start out with, and I might be a little wrong on these figures, price of the jail, 33 million, whatever, and we postpone it off till 27, whenever. The additional cost on that would probably help us pay for half of the highway department that we don't build right away. I believe we need the storage area, but I don't think we need the south half as much right now. And to spend all the money on that, watch the costs on the jail go up. I think we have to do the jail and the north half there. I think that's what we should be concentrating on. As he said, this new building quote Lego system makes that really easy to come back and readjust all that. So, but I think we got to do the whole strip, because you don't want to do a partial foundation and then stop at the, whatever you want to call it. 24 is the green, right? And that light green is,
It would be an alt, bid it out as an alt.
yeah.
Yep.
But I think, construction wise, you want to pour that whole thing. There's a lot of weight in there. You don't want seams and re-pours, and that's what I think we should do. Build that half and go for the jail right away. We're gonna save enough money in the jail rising in 2 to 3 years to help pay for the second half of this. That's what I would support.
Roderick?
Mr. Kudo brought this up. Both the jail, a new jail, and a new highway shop would help get new employees and maintain them. That's true for both of them. Like I said, we need both of them. And to do, we're having trouble in both sections, getting people and maintaining them. We have new facilities. That's an incentive for them to come and to look at also. I think, again, like I previously said, I'm not against the highway shop at all, but I think this proposal of doing a highway shop first and then postponing the jail is, increasing taxes. So I would say vote no on this and then do option 1, which is doing the jail and the highway shop at the same time, with the highway shop, moved off a year or 2. Thank you.
You could also amend the motion as well, just to.
You got.
All right, Mr. Meyer.
been hearing these numbers thrown around ever since Wold did their building study. And I think we asked them, they didn't go as far into it, but I think we had some numbers in the mid-20s to all the way up, maybe I should remember 30, 32, because we asked them for some different scenarios. And they were kind enough to do it. It wasn't in their contract, if I remember right. So I don't know how much we hang our hat on those numbers. I guess where I'm a little concerned right now, and I get both sides of the debate here tonight. I definitely do. We started out with the jail at being 38, 39, probably a year ago.
It was even higher at one.
And now we got it down to 33.5. But if you guys are talking this 15% increase, I don't even think this number we're talking at 33.5 is probably, I would have to say if that argument was warranted, those numbers wouldn't even be good right now. Since we started talking about it. So you could easily be back up 35, 36 at this point right now. I'm really on the fence on this, but one thing I know is I feel very confident about this number that was just brought to us because it's very recent. On the jail side of it, I don't know if I feel so confident about that number. If it's going up that much, I don't know if 33 is even in the ballpark. I don't know. I mean, you guys, I guess from that committee might have a better idea if someone asked that question, but that 33 number has been out there for a while. What concerns me is it started out at 38, 39. And when you cut 20% or whatever off of a building project, what got cut out of that project that later on we're going to pay for? Either it gets done and then someone goes, oh, well, hey, this didn't work out. And I'm not blaming anybody, but you don't know until you know. And then, well, we should have had this, so now we're going to have to budget for this. Or should have had this, but we didn't spend it. And wondering if we're kind of jumping the gun with recent or very accurate numbers on the jail side of it.
Comments?
A lot of good points, Mr. Meyer. The jail project has been whittled back immensely to meet a mandate of getting it cheaper than what? The 39.43, I believe it was at one point. I actually requested to speak to point out, Mr. Willingham was talking about the shop area at the highway department. And yes, that's a wreck. But in building this storage area, keep in mind that that shop is being used as a storage area right now. Now it becomes a usable shop. In the interim between, if this were to be built, between that and when the actual new shop area was to be built, safety would improve, morale would improve just on that, because they're going to see that something is moving in the right direction. Mr. Meyer's point about the jail, things that were cut, skywalk, another unpopular thing, but, and in cutting that, that adds costs of transporting prisoners to court and back. So yes, there are some things that certainly would be regrettable if we didn't have those.
Thank you. Mr. Vincent.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm the new guy here. So as we're considering both of these options, scenario 1, scenario 2, I was looking for an answer. What is the time difference for full completion of the shop between scenario 1 and scenario 2? So does scenario 2 bring the full building complete like a year earlier than scenario 2? Just 1 year? And to follow that up, is that worth $5 million to the cost of the jail?
He wants to know what it would be to do the complete.
Mr. Kudo, I don't know that he's the right person to answer the.
That would have come from
finance
there.
part. That would be more of a Baird question.
If they don't have an answer, that's okay.
He was asking about how long it would take to complete it. Am I right?
Yeah, so,
Construction time?
yeah, well, whatever the time, what is the delay in finishing the highway shop between scenario 1 and scenario 2? So scenario,
But this,
That was your 2-year
yeah,
illustrated.
25 and 27.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, have we actually agreed on what the jail is gonna look like? So if we're ready to borrow the money, start building the jail.
No.
We don't know yet what it is we're going to build.
You are not authorizing bonding. You are not authorizing bonding tonight. You're authorizing the next stage of design development, which would flush that out for highway and or jail.
Thank you.
Mr. Willingham?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I know there's a lot of pros and cons and one of the things that disturbed me a little bit is that we were talking about originally a $39 to $43 million jail. And people are kind of nervous about that, and we had some public hearings and a lot of negative feedback from the public about plans. If we'd approved these plans a year ago, we would be spending $39 to $43 million on a new jail. And all of a sudden, we figured it out that we could build a new jail for $33 million. So maybe stalling a bit or pushing the design professionals a little bit in the right direction made a big difference in those estimates. That gives me an issue of confidence in the planning process. How did a $39 to $43 million project, when the county said, suddenly it was $33 million? And I believe that the original committee requested something even less than that.
Let's put our foot down. We said on a plan that's 25 mil.
Yeah. You got
That's when they come.
33 anyway. You got half of it. Anyway, that's just, and I think that the public is watching this process and they're wondering, we know what we're doing if we're looking at a plan here at 39 to 43 million and all of a sudden it's down to 33. How did that happen? And I'm sure there were some things that were cut out of there, but I don't know that transporting the prisoners, it requires people to transport the prisoners. I don't know that putting them in the car and driving them over to the Sally Port is that much more expensive than walking across the Skyway. So I'm not sure that element raised the cost that much. So, but anyway, that's enough for me.
Redwood.
I think the costs, they were asked to reduce costs and everything, but they cut the number of beds. Originally, we were up into like 60 to 80 or more even, and at the higher limits and everything. And we just said, no. Because of the cost, like you mentioned, they were told to cut it down. So a lot of that came from cutting beds down to, I think it's down to like 52 to 55 right now. I mean, with the current plans. And I think for, well, transparency's sake, everybody screamed about the $3 million walkway or skyway. I think you have to look at the alternative. If we build it across there, again, nothing's been signed or done that way. We want to, flesh out the plans. But if we build it up across the street, we will have to hire 2 new deputy officers, because you're going to have 2 people at all time that are going to have to transport them from the Sally Port over there to the Sally Port and the courthouse here.
Redrick, you're a little bit off topic.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to accept
Authorized proceeding with the design development.
This resolution that's in your packet.
in the packet. So that's the only thing. So that's option 2. Scenario 2, if you want to call it.
Yes.
And scenario 1 is not on this. So this is either a yes or no vote.
Correct.
Unless you want to amend.
No, and so, I mean, I guess with amending, if the only thing that you can't amend because nobody in the world knows that you're talking about the jail. Okay, so if that is the desire, then I would suggest that you make a motion to postpone this till next month and bring a resolution back that contains the jail and the highway.
Isn't that scenario 1?
That is, but all we have on the agenda was for the highway.
The resolution is
down.
Or to vote it down, yes, correct.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
the resolution is to proceed with the design
Just the
development
highway.
page of the highway shop. If the jail was on the agenda, we could vote on that, but otherwise you want it properly noticed.
No, I mean, I think that the best way would be not to do a motion to postpone or would be to vote. If it's a no vote, then you can come back with that. If you just want to proceed with the highway, then it would be a yes vote today and then see depending on how that vote happens for next month.
Mr. Vincent.
I was gonna say, does a yes vote today lock us into either scenario 1 or scenario 2?
Okay, so the motion that came out of the ad hoc committee was to recommend to the county board the first part of scenario 2. The motion had did not commit to the jail. So voting yes on this resolution is essentially the first chunk of scenario 2, which is strictly the highway shop only. That's why the jail isn't mentioned in the resolution, because that wasn't in the motion.
Any more discussion? Any more discussion? Go ahead and vote now. Yes, 9 no. Valid by majority vote.
Well, you'll bring it back.
All right, next on the agenda is scheduling guideline for usage permits at the Rusk County Fairgrounds. Oh. We got a motion by Mr. Russell. Second by Ms. Good.
Excuse me.
Did you present it then? Oh,
Let's see tonight.
Mr. Russell's the chair of this one, right? Sorry.
Oh,
Right? That's what the resolution said. Okay, Mr. Kudo.
okay. So whereas the Rusk County Fair is held the second Thursday through Sunday of August every year. And whereas the Rusk County Fair has several events that happen every year, and whereas the Rusk County Fair is solely funded by donations and revenue by events at the fair, and whereas usage permits for similar event entities at the Rusk County Fairgrounds could have a negative impact on the Rusk County Fair's income base if permitted to be held close to the dates of the fair. And whereas all of the annual events sponsored by the Rusk County Fair are but not limited to a truck and tractor pull, a demo derby, a mud bog, and any event put on during the rodeo. Now therefore be it resolved that usage permits for the Rusk County Fairgrounds that are similar to events that are held by the Russ County Fair, but not limited to, as the fair changes their events periodically, such as a truck and tractor pull, demo derby, a mud bog, and rodeo-like events will be scheduled not before and at least 30 days or more after the Russ County Fair.
And this goes back to the other month, we were talking about bringing a policy kind of forward that would set what the precedence is to have events out at the fairgrounds. Schneider?
Truck and tractor pull, demo derby, mud bog, and those have to be known months in ahead, long before snow is off the ground, because you gotta know whether you're competing with anybody. There's numerous places that run into problems before with that. We gotta use the fairgrounds as much as we can, but we gotta give these conflict with the fair. Thought all these were done by nonprofits. The fair did the mud bogs.
During the fair.
Yeah. So kind of confused by this. I don't like the 30 days after, because that limits our season too much, especially if you can't do anything before it. I think like 2 weeks or 3 weeks at the most be much better for the second part after the fair. You're killing the end of that whole season right there with a 30-day wait. You're gonna make them have it after that. I don't know. I'm just not happy with the way this one's written, to be honest. And I think its intent's good, but doesn't quite mean what I think will work. All I gotta say.
Boss?
I'm confused. Al stood up and said that there could be no more events before the fair. Did we vote that there could not be any other events, no matter what, before the fair?
This resolution.
Did I misunderstand?
No, this is similar.
Resolution says.
Similar.
Okay,
Say, oh.
okay, so we don't want any more events before the fair. I think he's right. I mean, you got the whole summer before that other things could happen there. I don't see that would work.
Willingham?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of comments. I just drove by the fairgrounds on my way here this evening. And I've been noticing that grandstand now says Russ County Fair. Doesn't even say Russ County Fairgrounds, it says Russ County Fair. I know that it's confusing to the public that the fair is so closely identified because of the use of the name Russ County. A lot of people still think the fair is owned and operated and run by the county, as the benefit of her name in their title. You know, this has been going back and forth about who gets to use the fairgrounds. And we've talked about the amount of money that's been used to improve the fairgrounds. I am not anti-fair. Many years ago, the county used to contribute county funds to support the fair. I voted for it every time. Voted for most of the improvements that have been made in the last 5 years to upgrade fairgrounds and make it more usable as an event center for many other purposes. So I'm not opposed to the fair, but I think we're setting up an unfair system here. It's to the point, at one time, the fair had to come to the county permission to use the fairgrounds. Now, county has to go to the fair and ask them if it's all right if we let somebody else use the fairgrounds. Because the balance of power here is in the favor of fair. We heard a lot at our last meeting from the public, who obviously support the fair, as I think we should. Talking about how important the fair was to our young people. And I agree 100%. Yet it seems like the fair has been moving more and more in the direction, not necessarily just for the young people, but, you know, the latest thing is arguing about who gets to sell the beer and make the money off the beer garden. Doesn't seem to be a youth-oriented program in my judgment. So I think there might be some room for some limitations here. And I also think that that a month after the fair does take anybody else out of the game. And suppose we gave a permit to the Bulls, Bulls, Barrels and Bands. Does that mean that we wouldn't be giving anyone else a permit to have a band out at the fairgrounds? So why are we protecting one entity from competition, but we wouldn't be willing to protect another entity that wants to use the fairgrounds for competition? Competition might be a good thing. Competition may help us improve, but so I can see a reasonable time, but 30 days I think is off.
Reversinger?
Our last couple of conversations with the highway shop and the jail, there was talk of growth in the county and possible increased revenue and growth. And here we're limiting that. We're limiting possible growth, and we're limiting any possible additional monies coming into the county. I think that's a nice facility. I think it should be utilized as much as possible. And I mean, will it financially damage the fair? I don't actually believe that. I think people that go to the fair are going to go to the fair. That's what they do. But if it possibly did, the county's going to bring in enough additional money, I think, by using the fair and renting it out, or using the fairgrounds and renting it out, and just bringing additional people to town that whatever could possibly be lost or could be recuperated easily. I just don't see why we would so severely want to limit people coming to the county for various reasons and various events. Okay. Russell?
Yeah, I don't read it that way. I mean, it doesn't say that it's blacked out before the fair and nobody else can use it. It's specific to certain events that would have a negative impact on the fair and its ability to, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with my eyeballs here. Have their ability to manage their finances. To say that this says nobody can use the fairgrounds before the fair is incorrect. And I'm hearing a lot of that, and that is not correct.
Kudo?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So bear in mind what we're trying to establish here is limited to certain things. And I don't know if anybody heard me, but I'll repeat them again. A truck and tractor pull, a demo derby, a mud bog, and a rodeo-like event. These are big money makers for the fair. And I hope everybody here realizes that the county does not subsidize this fair at all. This fair is totally subsidized by donations and by the events that the fair puts on. You get no monies from the county. So, and furthermore, I just would like to say that my original version of this actually did not even include verbiage that said will be scheduled not before. It basically just said that the events listed would be held at least 30 days after the Rusk County Fair. The JYE committee thought that it would be best to put that verbiage in that said will be scheduled not before. If there are other events that happen at the fair, that's not what we're trying to help people not to have. So basically, we're just simply saying that here's the things that we have that brings us money so that we can put on a fair every year. And if we have somebody that comes in like a rodeo-like event that's 2 weeks before the fair, and you're going to tell me that's not going to impact our event at the fair, I think you're full of it. Sorry, I really do. Because it will. It will impact the money earning capacity for the fair's event of the rodeo. I don't care what anybody says. That's just the way it is. So just so you get this, and I don't know if some of you are, but we're not trying to restrict anybody from having an event at the fair. We're simply saying that for these like events listed here, I can say them again if anybody has any questions. For these like events, we don't want them to happen before the fair, or they happen after the fair.
Good.
That's my point too. It says similar to similar events. There's nothing with only similar events. It's not anything.
Mr. Moore?
Yeah, I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot by passing this. I mean, we should be out there generating revenue for the fairgrounds, or for the county rather, instead of restricting it. And I think this will restrict it greatly with your picking and choosing who can come and who can't. And, you gotta wait 30 days. As somebody said, that's the end of summer, or summer's about gone then. So I think, if we pass this, that revenue that we're trying to generate, or we should be out there, gonna be cut back even further. Turn people off. That's it.
Mr. Russell?
Just want to acknowledge everybody that puts all their volunteer time into making that a success. And that's basically why the county doesn't need to put any money into it. People are working their butt off to make it work, and I caution you to think back 10 or 12 years ago when the place was bankrupt.
I guess I kind of agree that at least 30 days or more after the fair, very restrictive. And what's the point if there's something that the fair has and they want to go to it, they will go to the fair thing. If they want to go again, that's up to whoever's sponsoring it. I think, and I think it was Mr. Willingham's comment that it says Russ County Fair. This happened, it'd have to be less than 3 years ago. We were trying to get them simply put up a sign that said that this is the fairgrounds on the grandstand. And Charmaine got them to do it. And I said, but you didn't put after it. Just says Russ County Grant, it didn't say fair or grandstand on there. And she said, hey, I got the fair on there. Give me a break. And so that's why it was that when she told people to put it up, they only put up the Russ County Fair instead of fairgrounds. So that was just, I know the story behind that one. But I think maybe, I agree. I don't read that this is preventing anything before the fair at the fairgrounds, as long as it's not similar to the ones that the fair is putting on. But I think the 30 days or more after the fair is too restrictive. Doesn't serve any purpose.
Would say that it probably might make more sense to do like 2 weeks after the fair, a month before or something. A little, so you're not tying up the whole year with it. Anybody else? More discussion? Not, go ahead and vote. 7 yes, 10 no, failed by majority vote. Next on the agenda, we have legislation that allows counties to retrain percentage of real estate transfer fee and increase funding. Local land creation program. Got a motion by Mr. Willingham. Second by Mr.
Okay, so the statement of explanation I entered into the packet should explain everything that you guys need to know. If you have any questions, please let me know. But the key provisions I wanted to hit was that although this does reduce the real estate transfer fee from 30 cents to 20 cents, $100 of property value, the county would get to keep a greater share of that. So going from 20% to 50%. Also, this legislation would increase land information funding by raising our base grants from 100,000 to 175,000, and that's adjusted based on how much the county already kept. This would also boost training and education grants from 1,000 to 5,000 and require that 46% of the land information fund be redistributed to counties based on what they collected. And the last note is that the legislation would require counties to provide a free notification system to alert property owners if documents are recorded against their property. We already have this. Mary Berg wants me to plug it for you guys. She got this up and running. So we have a free service already for our residents, property fraud alert. This is on our website. You can scan the QR code. You can go to the website, and this is courtesy of our Register of Deeds office. So that part of the funding or the legislation, we already do that here in Russ County.
Questions? Vote. Alan Ashley get to present everything. That's gets done in 2 seconds. Okay, 16 yes, passed by majority vote. Next, we get resolution to approve urging Congress to preserve the municipal bond tax exempt tactical financing tools. We got a motion by Mr. Russell and a second by Mr. Wedwick.
Okay, so again, I entered a statement of explanation into the packets. This is incredibly important for us to support. So this is the supportive resolution. There's no fiscal impact, urging the United States Congress to preserve the tax exempt status of municipal bonds. Municipal bonds are a key financing tool. You heard about it tonight, used by our county to fund public infrastructure projects, including roads, emergency facilities, government buildings, etc. So the tax exempt status of the bonds allows us to borrow at a significantly lower interest rate, which allows us to maximize every tax dollar. So if the tax exempt status went away, the interest that we would pay on these bonds would be a lot higher. The National Association of Counties did estimate that by eliminating the tax exempt status of these bonds, that could increase capital borrowing costs by $823 billion nationwide, which would be about a $6,500 US household impact. Again, Wisconsin counties do operate under strict levy limits, which cap how much property tax revenue we can raise each year. So that makes it really, really difficult to fund these larger scale projects by, building reserves or something like that. So we rely on the GO debt where we can go above that levy cap. It's one of the few tools that we do have to go over the levy limit and also not overburden our taxpayers. So the resolution asks the board to formally support protecting the tax exempt status of municipal bonds and does direct the county clerk to send a copy of the resolution and the accompanying letter to Wisconsin's congressional delegation. And this is a really important federal issue that we should weigh in on and show our support to the legislature that we would like to preserve tax exempt municipal bonds.
Any questions? Not, you can vote now. It's a yes, majority vote. A resolution to approve payment of audit amounts for the fiscal years 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018 for the Russ County. Got a motion by Mr. Meyer and a second by. Were you looking to present on it? Are you wanting to present on this?
Just really quickly, part of the outcome here is due to some changes in policy from the Department of Transportation in regard to public transit programs. One of the anomalies of the transportation DOT, they make these funds available from federal funds. I think a portion of federal funds are required to be used for transportation. Russ County's had a public transit program for probably over 50 years, one of the earliest rural public transit programs in the state, and has had a lot of its success, although always has struggled financially. For some bizarre reason, the state of Wisconsin Department of Transportation is notoriously slow in auditing the public transportation program. So you're looking at a payback for a audit period that I think was ending in 2018 for 4 years. So that's how far behind they are. They haven't done 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and now 24. They're working on 19. So one of the outcomes of that is that if you're screwing up on how you're allocating costs in 2015, and you don't get audited until 2020, you're screwing up for 5 years instead of 1 year. And so, and there's no way to go back and correct the subsequent years. And a number of the audit exceptions that come up in these annual audits have to do with how the county and the transit program allocate in-kind expenses, et cetera. So the two changes that are significant that make this resolution necessary is one of the programs that the county operates for the Department of Transportation and the Transportation or Transit Commission operates is the driver volunteer program, or the personal escort program that provides mostly medical transportation for people who have disabilities to take medical trips to Marshfield, Eau Claire, Chippewa, Rice Lake. Our senior citizens, my wife included in nursing home, has no other way. I can't take her to the doctor because she can't get in and out of the car on her own. So we use this service. That's funded by a program called 8521. County puts up a modest matching amount for that program. And the nice thing about that program is that we do charge for the service, not as much as it costs, but we do charge for the service. But any revenues or funds left over at the end of the year, the counties and the transit program is allowed to retain those funds, put them into a trust fund, which the county holds. And that trust fund then can be used for the 20% match that's required for purchasing new equipment or new vehicles. And so we get a capital grant, 20%. We have to find that cash. The county doesn't have to find that cash. They take it out of the trust fund. Over the years, on the regular transit program, the state withheld 10% of the grant award until the audit was done. But now they're holding thousands and thousands of dollars of our grant, waiting for them to get around to auditing the program before we know whether we keep somewhere along the line about 19 or 2018 or 19, somebody in Madison made a mistake and they didn't hold the 10%. They sent it to the county. So when we alerted them to that fact, they said, well, just keep it, but don't use it. So we put it in the trust fund. And then subsequent audits where we had to pay them back. So the change that the Department of Transportation made was that we do not have to put that money into the trust fund. And the trust fund has those restrictions. It can only be used for matching capital improvements. So we have more leeway in how we can use those holdback funds, and they go into a separate account. And finally, from time to time, Transit Commission, their vehicles and equipment age out, and we sell an old bus and buy a new one, or try to buy a new one. I think there's some limits on how much of the sale that we can keep. I think up to $5,000 county can keep. In some instances, if we acquired the vehicle from another transit program, we might be able to keep more of that. That again is proceeds from the sales. In the past, we put those into the trust fund as well. Therefore, they were restricted in their use. Now, the Department of Transportation clearly has given us recommendation and guidance that we not put the holdback funds into the trust fund, nor the sales proceeds into the trust fund. They have more discretion in their use. And this resolution is allowing us to use those accumulated holdback funds to pay back audit exceptions. So there were like 4 years. One year we owed them $45,000, and another year they owed us money back and forth. So it all shook out to we were able to pay those 4 years off with $17,000 out of that fund. And the holdback funds are no longer tied to the year that they are. We can put them in there and we can use them going forward. So this is a really great benefit to the county and to the transit program. As the new audits come out, hopefully we won't come out quite as short as we did on some of these others. So that actually, hopefully, is an explanation for this resolution. And then the next one as well, which is simply allowing us to remove the proceeds of the sales out of the trust fund and put them into that separate. And I believe that the County Finance Department has recommended that that fund go into a separate account, not into the county's account, right?
We want to wait to talk about that agenda until we're done. You can just make it really quick on the next one. All right, any questions for on the resolution here? Any discussion? Not, go ahead and vote. $17 yes, passed by majority vote. All right, now we're on to resolution to approve payment to the Rusk County Transit Commission for the proceeds from vehicle sales from 2023 and 2024. Now you can let.
I already said, you can't talk.
60 seconds. Let's vote. All right, any discussion? Thank God. So now we get a motion by Mr. Willingham, second by Mr. Russell. Vote. 15 yes, passed by majority vote. It's on the agenda. We have setting compensation for Sheriff's Office Chief Deputy. Do you want to present to that? Yeah, maybe should. Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion? Okay.
Do the explanation first. Then somebody can make a motion to.
I'll let you explain.
So in the county, we have a process that when we are setting compensation that is above step 5 outside of the ad hoc hiring committee's purview, or it's a promotion, we need to go through several committees before it gets to the board. Terry Woodwick is the chair of emergency services because emergency services had already happened. Gave his blessing to forward this on to personnel, which Mr. Meyer, who was the acting chair at the time, agreed to. And I think, no, Kudo. And then Mr. Meyer for finance was acting chair and he agreed to hear it at finance as well. What happened was the personnel committee is recommending this position be placed at step 2, which is $34.94 an hour. And then when this went to finance right after personnel, they disagreed with what personnel said, and they're recommending that this position be placed at step 7, which is $37.40. So there are 2 resolutions in your packet. The one from personnel, again, is at step 2, and the one from finance is at step 7. So it would be prudent for a motion to bring one or the other to the floor.
Whoever makes a motion, make.
But somebody's got to get the floor and then make the motion.
Mr. Kudo?
Make a motion that we approve the wage increase of step 2 at $34.94.
Which is the one submitted by personnel.
Okay, so we got a motion by Mr. Kudo. We have a second by Mr. Meyer to proceed. Passed by personnel committee, which would be the step. And Mr. Grassman, if you would like to take up this agenda item.
Yeah. So we're in a little conundrum right now, and I'm asking for your help, really. I've been doing the jail captain work since January, when our jail captain George Murray left. I've also been doing my job now since the sheriff retired April 1st. I've been doing all 3 jobs. We went through the hiring process for a jail captain. George Murray left our county for better pay. He left an admin position in our county to go to Barron County to work on the jail floor to make more money. When George Murray left, he was making, I think, $31.60 an hour as the jail captain. New jail captain wage is $37.13. The jail captain is currently out on FMLA. Excuse me, new jail captain, and will not be able to return to work for weeks. So I will continue to have to do jail captain work, including my own work, for several more weeks. When I was appointed sheriff by the governor, I had the duty to appoint a chief deputy, which is a statutory obligation. I asked for letters of interest from our department. I received 3. Only one of them was qualified to do the job. I appointed a chief deputy. He conditionally accepted contingent on wage. Like Ashley stated, we went to personnel, we went to finance. Personnel wanted to start the chief deputy at $34.94. Personnel wanted to start the chief deputy at $37.40. Prior to all this, the chief deputy used to not be on the wage scale. So in my 9 or 10 years as chief deputy, I was not placed on the wage scale. I got the same raises that the union did. This board decided to place the chief deputy on the wage scale, which I'll be completely honest, I was against it, but it's the right thing to do. It really is. I had a conversation with the person that I appointed as chief deputy today in my office, and he told me that he would not accept the appointment if it's just going to be the wage of $37.40. And I asked him what he was talking about. And he said, $37.40 is fine, but I could literally go a year or 2 without a raise in this county. So we are currently in contract negotiations with the union.
if the union accepts what the county offered, I'm not talking numbers.
It doesn't matter.
I think that the contract and negotiations are an appropriate discussion.
The chief deputy isn't going to accept that wage of $37.40 on its own. The only way he would feel comfortable is if he remains on the wage scale, but still continues to get the raises that the union gets, which is no less, no different than what I've gotten for 10 years. I'm super concerned that if we don't start him at $37.40 and allow him to get the same raises as the union, we're not gonna have one. And I'm gonna be in the same position that we are with finance. I'm gonna be in the same position that we are at highway. The only difference is you can't contract out to a firm or a chief deputy. We can contract out to a firm for finance. Might cost us more money, but they can do the work of a finance director. We can hire out to Mr. Kern to help do some of the work at the highway shop. We can't contract out to a company to be the chief deputy. The reason that it's very important for me to get Matt Wycheck in that position is because Matt Wycheck, Tom Olenek, who's the new jail captain, and myself have had several conversations over the last couple of weeks. This county, for at least the last 1 to 7 months, has been in a budget crisis. Am I wrong? I don't think anybody will disagree with me at all. We're in a budget crisis. Tom Olenek and Matt Wycheck have brought to me several different ideas of how our department, the sheriff's department, who spends money, can look at new ways to create revenue for the county. I would implore you to go to other departments in the county and ask them in the last 6 months, how many different revenue streams have they found and sought after? There's several different revenue streams that we can create in our agency that will help offset the budget deficit that we currently have. But we can't do that unless we have the right people in the right places. I won't have time to look at implementing, researching, making sure they're legal, these new budgets, these new revenue streams, if I'm doing the jail captain's job and mine, or if I'm doing the chief deputy's job and mine. I will not have time. These new revenue streams, are they gonna make 100 grand the first year? Absolutely not. But are you gonna notice, will I be able to prove you, will I be able to show you numbers that we are doing our best as a department that works for this county to help create more revenue that we've never made before? Absolutely. Yep, I will. Might it be $10,000? Might be. Might it be $32,000? Might be. But it's more than what we had last year because we've never done these things. But I can't do it if we aren't full staffed in our admin positions. Like I said, I'm very, very concerned that I'm not gonna be able to have a chief deputy. All I want is for the incoming chief deputy to have what I want now. No more, no less. Keep him on the wage scale, but as the union gets a raise, place him on that wage scale that coincides with the union contract and raise. That's all I need. I'm not asking for a huge raise for the chief deputy. I just want him to make 37 something what I was making. I just want him to have that comfort level, knowing that he probably will get a fair and equitable pay increase each year as the union does. Any questions?
Mr. Gorsinger.
I don't have a question. I just, I have a comment to add on to that. Or, I mean, we heard tonight from the acting highway commissioner that, you know, they've lost 6 guys from their shop, mainly went to somewhere that they made more money. At the city, I hired 3 people in the last year.
two of them took a pay cut to come work for me. The third one actually got a pay increase, and that's because he came from Russ County. In in order to have good people, you have to pay good wages, or you have to pay fair wages. I'm not blaming him for, he makes a good wage now, want to leave that wage and take a pay cut, basically, to take more responsibility. I don't blame him for what he's asking for. And I think we don't have a highway commissioner because we don't pay enough money. We don't have a finance director because we don't pay enough money. I don't know what the answer is either, but in order to fill these positions and keep good people, we're gonna have to pay them.
Just so you guys know, and this is just the last 3 years, Matt's average income in the last 3 years was $85,000. If he takes the chief deputy spot at $37.40, he'll make $77,000. So he's willing to initially take that about $8,000 a year pay cut. He wants that comfort knowing that he probably has a very good chance of getting fair and equitable pay raises each year along with the union.
Russell?
I agree with everything you said. Basically, putting him at 37.40 and then basically having a side letter is what you're asking or to do.
Well, what the board could also do.
I'm not done. Sorry. Thank you. The other thing is we have a wage scale. And we've been dancing around it, but I've only been here a year. I can't speak prior to that. There's been a number of times where we put people outside the wage scale. And until recently, we have adhered to the guidelines of that we have. And I agree, she should make more money. I agree that anybody in law enforcement should $50 an hour. But this is doing this, and I've even been part of doing it, so shame on me too. But continuing to go down this road of everybody coming and asking for more money because they deserve it, and I'm not saying that they don't, is we're gonna die on this hill. I mean, you can't stop this. There's nobody that has people working for them that won't go to bat for them and say, well, you did this for Sally. I want Sammy to have the same thing. I mean, you can't close it. Once the door is open, you can't close it. And again, I'm as guilty as anybody because I've been part of it where we did that. But either we hire somebody, the same somebody, to redo a wage survey and adhere by the wage survey, which in my long ago history in the private sector, we conducted a wage survey every year. Now, it was a different circumstance where we didn't have net new construction that penalizes pretty much anybody north of 29. But we go down this road, every committee is going to get this same question. Every single time, we're going to be held up for ransom. And maybe that's the wrong word, but we're going to be forced to make this decision at least once a month, if not more. And again, you guys deserve it. I'm not saying you don't. But we either have to we either have to get at the root cause or just decide that we don't really care about the wage structure and we'll just throw it out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Several points. One, we did have a system where both the chief deputy and the jail captain were had the consideration of a side letter that tied their wages to the union increases. Get away with that with jail captain. And now it's being suggested that we continue that practice with the chief deputy. Actually, happy jail captain. If we are not consistent with what we decided to do in regard to the jail captain and the whole idea of having the side letters. I don't know if she brought it along with her, but the administrative coordinator provided us a very strong and logical rationale for putting these positions on the wage scale. And, you know, I think that was persuasive for the committee, for the personnel committee. I don't know if you presented that to the finance committee or not, but it was persuasive to me that now was the time to quit doing the time and then putting people in the position of not getting something that somebody else got. And we need to figure out this wage scale, and we need to get on it, and we need to stay on it, and we need to not make these extraordinary exceptions. I certainly applaud any initiatives about raising revenue, but the suggestion that no other department is talking about, I think, is maybe based on false information or assumption. Members of the zoning committee are aware that the zoning department or the blind information department has made several suggestions to the committee about increasing some of our fees service and bringing in more revenue. I'm not on all the other committees, so I don't know what other committees are doing, but I can speak for one committee that has been considering ways of increasing and bringing in more revenues. And finally, you know, believe that in our personnel discussion, we also had some information, and you know, it's not a big deal. You know, obviously, in considering your appointment, you considered more things than just somebody's qualifications. But our HR manager informed the personnel committee that all three of the candidates that were interested in the job met the requirements of the job description if we were advertising it. Now, again, interviews, knowledge, experience, and everything else may enter into the equation, but I think it was a mistake to suggest that only one was qualified. So I don't know how you figure this out. I think time has come for us to stick with the wage scale and we move forward with it.
Vincent?
One of the issues that came up in finance meeting was that the wage scale, like it's been talked about a little bit earlier in this meeting and is that it was done a few years ago. The wages that were recommended were maybe not the same as the wages that could be gained now. I guess thinking about that and then thinking about the two numbers that we brought here today, when you, Sheriff, talked to Matt Wojcik, you brought up that you had spoken about the 3740. Did you guys have any conversations about the 3494 number as step 2 of the wage scale would be?
Yes,
And what was his response?
that'd be even a larger pay increase for him, and he could not afford to live that way.
So
Decrease.
wage decrease.
You meant a decrease, increase, you meant decrease.
It'd be a pay decrease.
Yeah.
He could not afford to live that way.
Okay. And then the second question I had was when the prior chief deputy was being paid, were they closer to the 3740 number or to the 3494 number?
37.
Speaking of the prior chief deputy.
I know. I was trying to be a little more formal. I'm still new at speaking here.
Mr. Kudo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I agree with the point Mr. Willingham made that of the three candidates, they actually were qualified. Said maybe some were a little less qualified than another. They did meet the requirements as far as what the job description said. So that was misleading, say that there was only one person that qualified. The other thing is it was an ad hoc interviewing committee that got together and decided on this absurd wage for the jail captain. And it passed with a negative recommendation from both our admin coordinator and our human resources.
A little off topic though. Right now, the discussion at hand is the wages for the,
I'm getting to that. So, and lastly, but not leastly, if we do this, I mean, so we've got like, we have, chief deputy register of deeds, we have a deputy treasurer, we have a chief deputy clerk. We're gonna have to give those all a step 11 raise. And if they find out, you know, about this, I guess if I was in one of those positions, it's where I'd be coming, asking for more money. Thank you.
Mr. Versinger. Not sure who this question is for, maybe the two Ashleys, but when that wage scale was first commissioned, you know, the wage study, and I wasn't on the board then, but what percentage was the current employee set at of what the was recommended by the study?
What percentage the employees got for an increase?
No, well, I guess I understood it as that the study came out with with numbers, and then the county set that at a percentage of them numbers. So like at a 60% of what the recommendation was, or a 50% of what the recommendation was. What was that number?
So they did a blended rate of the 25th to 50th percentile of the current market rate. But on top of that, it's probably a little worse than that. After speaking to Cottingham Butler about it, which they're now Cottingham Butler, they were Carlson Detman. Their recommendation is usually only about 12 steps on a wage scale, but the county at that time had felt that those steps were too far in between. So we took that 12-step scale and put it into 21 steps instead of 12. So we had this blend of the 25th to 50th, but then cut it even more by increasing our steps up to 21.
So in layman's terms, I mean, their county employees are being paid a great percentage less than what the public sector similar positions would pay.
And what you have to think about is the control point is the blended 25th to 50th percentile, with our control point on our wage scale is 11. And when we implemented our wage study, 75% of our employees only got onto step 1. So 11 is the 25th to 50th percentile blend. I think it's step 7 is 25th percentile blend of market rate back in 2022, because it's all 2022 data. And 75% of our employees went to step 1 because that's essentially how far behind they were paid. So the county couldn't afford to implement people, you know, on those higher steps.
Rollingham?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I might be persuaded to support the finance committee's recommendation. I'm not sure. But I'm not going to be persuaded to place it at the finance committee's recommendation and then tie it to the union increases besides. I think that would send a really bad message to anyone else in the department that isn't in the union. So I like I say, I might be persuaded to join the
For just a point of clarification, this resolution does not tie it to that.
He's referencing what?
he's telling
Sheriff
us
said.
that that's what he's willing to come for. So if it's not tied to it, then we don't We'd have a resolution. No, more, you know. Because he's not gonna accept it. He's not gonna accept either one of them if we don't tie it to the union scale.
Mr. Meyer. I guess to get a little bit back on point here, and there's been a few questions here, but when the wage study was done, it was roughly a $500,000 increase to the county's levy to put that in place. Now, was it done correctly? Probably not, hindsight. But it was 500,000. And some people got dollars an hour increase. Some got quarters and 50 cents. But we had to start somewhere. But now we're looking to get way off base from this. And I guess back to this motion that's here, it's the hiring committee, I feel, got way out of whack with what they did with jail captain. I agree with all the comments here. Just someone, yes, $40, $50 an hour. Yes, it's a dangerous job. But it gets back to what can the county afford? And I think we need to stay somewhat in track with the Carlson-Detman. I'm not saying the Carlson-Detman doesn't need to be fixed. I think it does. I think it needs to be updated. But if we start this cherry picking, who comes forward and okay, what's your base every time when that individual comes in and asks for more money? Where is it going? Where, because we like, okay, their committee, they made a better argument. They need another $2 and whatever, 50 cents. What's going to be your basis? If you're going to go way off of Carlson-Detman and not stay somewhat to it, I'm not saying it doesn't need to be fixed. It does need to be fixed. And I think we need to address it this year. Probably should have addressed it last year. But I think I myself personally was shell shocked with the fact that we had to pull 500 and some thousand or whatever general fund just to get ourselves somewhat back into, and that's why raises weren't given last year. County was not in a good fiscal spot. But I would just like to advocate, I think this is the smart move for the county, the motion that's on the floor.
Hampton.
Thank you, Chair. Do we do performance-based reviews for, if we were to give raises?
No, we do not.
Would that be something we could maybe bring up as an option for the deputy pertinent to the sheriff? On an annual basis?
I would think you'd want to, if you implemented something, you want to implement it across the board and be consistent. If you're going to do performance based, you'd want to figure out a way to do that across the board and not just in a specific.
And we would be hampered by that with, I mean.
Thank you.
I passed out a sheet there for all of you. What I did is I looked at current chief deputy salaries in counties that were either similar in size or a lot smaller in size. I am not here asking any of you to allow our chief deputy make in the middle. I know we're on the bottom. But if you look at Iron County, 6,000 people, their chief deputy makes $80,000. Lawrence County, 5,000 people. Their chief deputy makes $84,000. Pepin County, 7,000 people, $82,000. Buffalo County, 13,000 people, $89,000. I know that our chief deputy isn't going to be in the middle of there. I know we're going to be on the bottom. Matt Wycheck is okay making 77 some $1,000. He's very, 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 very nervous that he isn't going to get a pay raise for a year or two. And if he stayed with the union, likelihood of him getting
The 77 is a step.
What?
The 77 was a step 2.
7.
That's the step 7.
Yeah.
Okay. And step 2 was again,
The 3494 is a step 2,
what's it,
and the 3704 is a step 7.
the annual on the step 2?
72 something. Someone can check my math, but I think it's
Hours.
80.
I'm sorry, 48, 2080, yep. 72 something, I think.
About 794.
Mm-hmm.
Divided by 40 by 50.
72.6.
72.6. So all I'm asking is for the board to give the incoming chief deputy the same thing that I left with. Not any more, not any less, but the same thing that I left with. So we can assemble our people in our department and have a successful department. I can't be like the finance department. We can't be. I can't be like the highway department. We can't be. The chief deputy is the backbone of our sheriff's department. Chief deputy is probably, well, I can speak on my behalf. I've been the busiest person in our department for the last several years. I have made probably 20 to 23 bucks an hour the last several years. You can look at my pay sheets. I bring my computer home. I work at home. I go on vacation. I bring my computer with because I have to work that much. I have to work more than 40 hours a week. Otherwise, the work won't get done. That's all I'm asking is for the incoming chief deputy to get exactly what I got when I left. Keep him on the wage scale, but increase his steps as the union gets their wage increases.
Question for Ashley Goodis. If you looked at other department heads, Tony, are we up with surrounding counties, what we pay? Or are we on the low end, the high end?
We're on the lowest, yeah. Yeah, we're behind anywhere from 12 to 20% from our surrounding counties.
What is the chief deputy?
20.
And that's an average of our surrounding counties. We're 20% below the average.
And so our other department heads as well,
That's not unique.
or actually you're 19.
Mr. Vincent?
While we were talking, I heard several times that, it said you were saying it near your older wage, right? And that was about $37 an hour, which is, I guess my question is because I'm new here and I'm new to the finance committee, would we have budgeted for this year to pay his wage at $37 an hour? Which would still be roughly in line with the
wash. Yeah.
step 7. Okay, so it would be pretty much a wash to the budget if we were to move forward with an amendment to approve for the resolution at $37.40 an hour. And
So I guess I was gonna bring that up to the chair to see what he wanted to do, but my opinion would be, rather than muddy this with a amendment, is either vote yes on the 3491, which is there.
Excuse me.
No, if the no vote wins, then somebody can make a motion to bring up this resolution for the 37. Rather than, you only have two options, rather than do an amendment, changing that. I think it'd be.
And the other resolution's already here.
Correct. You have
So if we voted no to this, you can just make a clean vote for that one. Kudo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to be sure, if we did go with this 3740, that's it. That's not going to be also including regular union increases.
That's not in the resolution.
It will, I mean, it won't actually be an increase this year because basically wages are filled in. And this is on the Carlson Detman, so I mean, these wages also froze for this year. Correct?
And yes, for some reason, if we gave everybody a wage scale increase, if we voted for one step, then they would get a one step along with everybody else.
So we would have to go back on what we already voted on, saying we're not gonna have any wage increases for 25.
If that came as a suggestion to the board that we voted on it. That was number.
Here's my bottom line. So the sheriff is talking about 3740 plus union incentives to embellish on that. That's not what this resolution is saying, correct?
It doesn't have the union incentives, no.
And we're not considering that, correct? All we're looking at here is basically a 3740 wage.
Yeah, either one of those.
Just want to make that sure. Thank you.
Rollingham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if anyone in the room knows this or not, the answer to this question, but I'm almost pretty certain that the tax base in various counties that have been mentioned in this review is based on population. Pretty sure the tax base is based on valuation. And the property in some of these counties that are considerably smaller than Russ County, property values are significantly higher. And their ability to pay is significantly higher than ours. So while, some of these numbers are interesting, I don't see that we can tie our wages to population necessarily. And again, I say I could be persuaded to go with the higher rate recommended by the finance committee. But if the person isn't going to accept the position at that rate or the rate of the resolution that's on the floor, unless they get the rate that the finance committee recommended plus the union raises, I don't know why we're voting on either resolution. Unless the board is persuaded to have one person in the entire county workforce have their salary increases tied to the union in their department. Make any sense at all?
I did check that for Iron County, and Iron County's valuation is lower than Russ County's.
Russell?
I think any semblance of us tying a exempt person's wage to a bargaining unit's wage would fracture several laws and put us in a really bad position.
Any more discussion? Not? Go ahead.
No, this is the vote on the resolution to adopt a wage of $34.94.
Up to the one recommended by. Seven yes, 10 no, failed by majority vote. Someone here to make a different motion.
Also motion.
Go ahead and hit your button. It's still populating. Okay, Mr. Vincent, is your motion to adopt the resolution that was
Yes,
by finance?
I move to adopt the resolution as approved by finance at step 7, 37.40 an hour.
Been there, so now you can push it.
Right, we got a motion on the floor and we got a second by Mr. Hanson. Who give the chief deputy page proposed by finance, which would be a step 7 at 37.49. Any discussion? If not. Sorry.
I guess we're voting on something that we know he's not gonna take. He had told us that he wouldn't take the wage without the bargaining rights, so we're setting a wage that this guy won't take, so they're gonna hire somebody else at this higher wage. We don't know if it's qualified better or not. For approving a wage that our previous employee, he won't take it without the bargaining. His name is right in here, so.
Yeah, so they'd have to come back.
They'd have to come back. We're approving something now that we're back anyways. So it's kind of mute to even vote on this resolution. We're setting a wage that we don't know who we're gonna hire for.
Partially accurate. He has told me that he won't accept that. The board votes to set his wage at $37.40. I'm gonna be forced to try to talk him into it and try to do a lot of negotiating with him. And I'll do the best that I can because I have to. because I can't go without a chief deputy.
Russell?
In order what he said.
Sure.
We're letting one of our employees tell us what he wants and kind of holding us to the floor. We're gonna have 8, 10, 15 of them coming and doing the same thing.
You're gonna have more than that.
We got the scale. I need to stay to it. 'Cause I mean, we can't.
Trudeau?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, yeah, I think to Mr. Biller's point, we don't know if this individual would actually accept this as it stands. And if he doesn't, that means then that there were two other candidates basically that did qualify but were turned down for whatever reasons. And if they came back to the table, that means, whatever reasons they were turned down, if it was inexperience or whatever, they conceivably could be starting out at this amazing $37.40 wage, as opposed to like the wage set to a $34.54, which is probably more in line with what their abilities are.
That's good.
And I also feel that granted, there might be someone that actually is extremely well qualified and will fit and just float right in here and do wonderful things. But that doesn't mean that these other two candidates can't actually learn this job, and with training and grooming, et cetera, there's no reason why it wouldn't become as fully functional as this other individual. So, thank you.
Russell?
Leading off on what Tom said, this 37 now becomes the base wage.
This person says no, and we get a different person.
It now becomes the base wage.
They know that that's the offer and they're not gonna accept
Right.
any less, even if they would have before.
That's right.
Mr. Vincent?
Like we kind of talked about a little bit earlier, we don't know if this person will accept or not at 37.40, but we are pretty certain that they won't accept at 34.94. Talked about earlier. I don't have any reason to believe that anybody else who walked in here would be more qualified than who was put forward by the sheriff. And if I have an understanding of how this particular position works, is the only person who gets the judge on whether or not they're qualified is the sheriff. So if he's saying that the other two candidates he would not put his confidence in, then we could safely roll them out. Again, I'm a little biased. I am for the 37.40 resolution. I think it is a vote of confidence in the inspector as he is today. And he may actually accept that and we can solve the problem for the county with this vote.
Mayor?
We're not solving any problems. There's some people that probably didn't hear about or know what this board went through last budget cycle. There was a lot of PO'd people in the public because it got to the point where we either had to pull money out of general fund, cut services, or cut employees. So everybody better be prepared when this all lines up before the year's done on what you're gonna figure out at your committee level on some solutions to get where we need to be for next year's budget. Because I got on my soapbox last year and I think it's baloney that everybody dumps it on finance. But you better be prepared at your committee levels to figure out a way to get us where we need to be, because it was a big difference last year. So if you want to start these raises, that's fine. I'm not saying they don't deserve it. It's not gonna end here.
That light at the end of the tunnel is a train coming the other way.
Great. Any more discussion?
I would just ask that you guys give me a chance to try to offer him the 37.40. That's all. I'm not saying it's gonna work. I'm not saying it's gonna fly. But Matt is the only one capable of performing that job.